When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I grew older, I set aside childish ways. Corinthians 13:11. In the distant future, mankind has spread into the stars and found it is not alone. Within the cluster of planets known as the Silrain Heart, many races strive for survival or supremacy. But throughout this array of planets, societies, and cultures, each has one thing in common: the crucibles. Scattered throughout the galaxy, each moon-sized structure contains a core of raw sorin, a form of mysterious energy used to power ships, cities, and sometimes the warping of the fabric of reality itself. Beings who can do this have been given a name: Espers. The power of God has been granted to God's children. It is a time of terror. It is a time of wonder. It is the time of Esper Genesis.
I love it. I'm loving all about that music. What's going on, everybody? Welcome, everyone, to Esper Genesis. It is day 19 of Esper Genesis, and this is Consigned to Oblivion, sponsored, as always, of course, by Alligator Alley Entertainment. I hope everyone's doing well, and that you folks are looking forward to an awesome session tonight. I am exceptionally pumped up for this, because I think we're going to have a good one. There's a lot going on in this campaign, which we will talk about in just a moment. But before we get there, a couple of reminders about ways to support the stream. If you have not done so already, please make sure... Oh my God! The resub of Brahms. I'm drinking a delicious beer and contemplating life choices. Also this. Oh, well, I appreciate that very much, Brahms. I'm glad that this was one of the life choices that you made then. Thank you so much, Brahms. Thank you. You waited for that. You had that queued up and ready to go. Ways to support the stream. If you haven't done so already, please follow the channel. That is always very much appreciated. Please check out the YouTube channel where you can see past broadcasts of this and other streams at !ArvTube. !ArvCord will get you over to my Discord channel where you can hang out with the Arvanauts in between streams. !ArvTweets will let you follow my Twitter where I tweet when I go live. And if you've been following me, I talk also about politics and about other things, and it's all fun and games until someone loses an eye. I'm just kidding. That doesn't happen. But that is what happens over there. That's !ArvTweets. Oh, dear God. Brahms has gifted a tier 1 sub to Atlantis Princess 82. Wow, thank you, Brahms. Don't go nuts now. I appreciate it, man, but geez. That's really awesome. Thank you, dude, so much, and welcome Atlantis Princess, of course, who's been here multiple times. Thank you, Brom, so much, man. I appreciate that. Very kind of you. Thank you. And yes, so exclamation point Arv tweets will let you tweet out the stream. First of all, you can follow me on Twitter. An exclamation point tweet will let you retweet. That was also this. I got you. That will let you retweet the stream to all and sundry. As you can see, Echo Alpha has just done that. Exclamation point tweet will let you retweet the stream, which would be much appreciated. Let people know what we are doing here. Exclamation point Arv shop will get you over to my merchandise area where you can check out the merchandise that we've got. Right now, it's just Infinity and Beyond stuff, but we are going to be adding things, including Esper Genesis material and Adventures to Middle-earth material and a bunch of other stuff. I am talking with Kilobyte about that. Kilobyte has been a busy bee, folks, because he's been doing a lot of things, and there's more coming. Oh my God, we have so many projects that are working through Kilobyte or with Kilobyte. He's busy with work for us, which is cool, but that is the deal. So yes, anyway, exclamation point Arv shop for that. And then the last two things, of course, are the Patreon, exclamation point Arv Treon, which Echo Alpha has been nice enough to contribute to, as has Kilobyte and others in the past, where you can get support for the channel, and you can also get cool things for yourself, including the ability to inspire players. And quick reminder, by the way, that this is the last D&D related or campaign related session of the month. So if you have any inspirations remaining, now's the time to use them, because the rest of the month is just going to be game related stuff, not necessarily D&D related stuff. So now is the time to get this if you have inspirations available to you. And last but certainly not least is that sub button, which has already been hit twice tonight. One is a resub from Brahms, which I really appreciate, and the second is a gift sub from Brahms to Atlantis Princess, which I am also grateful for. So thank you to Brahms for both. Hi, Mrs. Dunzel. What's up? Happy Friday. So good stuff. Now, a couple of quick announcements. Tonight we have got Esper Genesis. As I said, we're going to be continuing that. Tomorrow we will have at 7 p.m. Masters of the Dungeon, my Dungeon Master Roundtable, and I'm excited about that because we actually will be introducing it'll be the premiere show of a new regular for us. The digital DM, Dave, and I will be joined by our new regular, Chelsea, Little Red Dot, who is well known, I think, to folks on this channel as one of the members of Assignment Unpossible. So she is going to be joining us as one of the regular hosts on that channel, which is really great. I am excited to have Chelsea with us. We will be doing that tomorrow, and then it will be Bard's Tale for Barrows Deep, and we will be doing that. And then on Tuesday, which will be the last stream of the month, that will have us doing, actually not quite the last stream of the month, I shouldn't say that, almost the last stream of the month. Tuesday will be, first of all, me playing Wild Arms, ACF, Alter Code F, which won the Patreon Field Chat Chosen Game of the Month, and I hope you folks are happy, because I had to buy that thing at like $55 to actually get that thing sent to me, but I am going to do it, and it's cool, because I was planning on playing Wild Arms at some point anyway, so that's going to be that. And then at 4 p.m. I'll be over at GOG playing Thronebreaker as I continue my playthrough of that. Last announcement I want to make, which is connected to Kilobyte being a busy bee, and is connected to Brahms, is on Thursday the 31st, we will have our premiere of a new campaign on this channel, which I am not involved with, other than the fact that it's on my channel, and that is Emberwind. Emberwind is starting Thursday evening, the 31st, so I am very excited for it. I believe it's starting at 8 p.m. Eastern, if I'm not mistaken. That will be GM'd by John Helfers, and I can now say, I think we've had an announcement of all the different players, but our 4 players in this will be Jennifer Brozek, will be Sod, will be Brahms, and Marie Bilodeau is the 4th player. Marie, who has played with us several times before on streams on here and has been on Speculate as well. She is a Canadian author, and all-around good person who I really like. Marie's a good person, is really awesome. So it's going to be a great group. I am really looking forward to seeing how they handle things in Emberwind and the world of Axia. So that is what we've got in the world of Adriel. So that's what we've got going on. It's going to be cool stuff. And it is true, yeah, it's going to be a very Ottawa-focused show. It'll be 2 Americans, 2 Canadians, so we'll see. Actually, no, 1, 2... Is that right? No, I'm sorry. 3 Americans and 2 Canadians, so we'll do the best we can. But anyway, but I'm very excited for that, so make sure you tune in for that. All right. Now, with that said, I'm going to unmute myself as we are now ready to go, and I'm going to move myself over to a group of people that I'm very happy to see tonight, and one that we weren't sure if we were going to see, but did arrive, and he made it and survived. And this is the crew that you see before us. I'll begin with the one person who's not here today, and that is Zach. As I had mentioned, Zach was not going to be able able to make today's session because of a work commitment. We've known about that for several weeks. He is very sorry. He might even be able to pop in for the last 15, 20 minutes of this, perhaps, but otherwise he will be incognito. And in fact, that's not even right. He just won't even be here during the session. But we will have Zach back soon. You will, however, see Zach back on Tuesday. I forgot to mention that our vocalist stream is coming up Tuesday night, so you will see us playing the Banner Saga 2 with the amazing voice acting team of Trendane and Sod and Rob and Russ. So that is going to be good times. Not Trendane, sorry. Rob and Russ and Zach. Those are the people that I know. I know my own group of people. They will be doing this on Tuesday. So Zach will be with us then, but until then, you should check him out at Zach Clay, also at Marimba Monk. He is awesome. Now, moving over to the people who are here. We'll talk about the person who we were glad is actually here in just a moment in terms of not being certain if he would be, but he did get here. But before we introduce him, we'll get to a gentleman on the left who was just talking about his deep commitment to one and only one hockey team. This is a person who has never changed his allegiance and who believes that Californians have a monopoly on commitment to their hockey teams. And I'm speaking, of course, about Johnny Pittman, Video Store Cowboy. So yes, Johnny, I know your passion runs deep for the San Kings Jose Shark Los Angeles. So I was wondering how
you forgot
doing?
about Anaheim?
Yeah, that's true.
Anaheim,
I haven't talked about
the Ducks actually count as a hockey team because they were the first California team to actually win the cup.
That's true. That's true. So yes, that is a good point. How you doing, Johnny? How is life, and who are you playing today?
Life is complicated. I am good. And just for everybody's understanding, I was talking about the fact that I would only be able to watch one hockey game this entire season, and that was going to be the NHL All-Star game on Sunday, which I'm totally looking forward to, and really sad that I don't have tickets for, because guess what? It's actually in San Jose, California. So
wow.
I'm totally missing that, right? It's the first time it's been in California, I believe. Oh no, it's the second time. I'm sorry. It was the first time it was in LA. Damn Kings. Anyways, it's
you've already forgotten, right? Oh yeah, the Kings, that team.
That team that's won the Stanley Cup a couple times.
Right.
But so that's the context of all this. And I am Johnny. I'm playing Aramis, the Ashen Fords Melder, who's about to get into a lot of trouble, I'm sure, because I'm going to be very sarcastic about it, because his friends have decided to go a direction that he doesn't agree with. So that's me.
It's going to be interesting to see how this breaks down. Yeah, especially when we find out more details about the nature of that decision, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Moving right along, of course, we have someone who should need no introduction, but I will do so anyway, and that, of course, is Kat Rambo. Kat, I hope all is well. It's good to see you. And Kat, I guess I should ask about how was Confusion, which I know you were at since we have last spoken.
Confusion was amazing, and one of the high points was I got to play Fiasco in the hotel lobby with Dan Wells and Howard Taylor and Monica Valatinelli, and
I'll bet that was a good time.
Really
That's a good
funny.
Crew.
Okay, it was amazing. We had a great time.
That's super awesome. Yeah, and I played a Firefly game with Monica once, which was an interesting experience. I was just kind of like, wow, this is it was awesome. It was wild though. So Monica and the rest of them are good people. Who are you playing today, Kat?
I am playing Petrasinus, an Ashen Forge Sentinel with a very large hammer, and I feel obliged to mention, since we were talking about this just before, Craig, that Petras and the rest are only level 3, and yet we've been playing for over a year. Johnny's giving me a big thumbs up.
Are you suggesting that the leveling speed has not been up to what you would have?
I'm gonna say this is pretty slow, dude. I'm just in case you have forgotten lately, in case like you were thinking, oh crap, I really need to level them up, and I keep forgetting.
I have definitely not. I have definitely not. I think a level up is in your very near future, assuming you survive. Okay. It's not my fault that things happen and then you guys take ships and go running off and jumping into black holes. Like that makes it difficult sometimes for me to keep up with the level circumstances.
I feel like that was slightly threatening. That should you survive, there was like
no. Now that you've mentioned this, no. Unlike certain political leaders, I do not bully to get my way. I am, or in certain cases, not get my way and fail
nice
completely.
ass and Forge you got there. Be a shame if something happened.
Shame if something happened to it. Yeah, exactly.
All right, so I'll shut up now. Let's play.
I am looking
fine.
forward to seeing how Petra handles things going forward. And last but certainly not least, a gentleman who, as I say, I was concerned. We weren't 100% sure if you were going to make it there. And Carlos, maybe you can explain why we were concerned at first. Carlos Hernandez, of course. Why were you worried a little bit, Carlos, about this?
This morning I was in Albuquerque, and so I had things timed pretty tight to begin with, but thought I'll be able to make it plenty of time in order to be able to game tonight. And then as we're getting on the plane, we start finding out that air traffic controllers and other workers at LaGuardia Airport, where I'm flying into, weren't going to be showing up to work. This was how my morning began. And so, I was there with Disney Hyperion. And let me tell you, Disney took really good care of me. I was at the American Booksellers Association conference, and they have powerful people, the Mouse and gang. And, so, they were like, we'll reroute you. We'll fly you into Newark. We're going to make things happen for you. But all that needed to happen was to hang on and have faith. And the air traffic controllers of LaGuardia pulled through, and I showed up in time.
It was awesome. And by the way, what that suggests to me, and I had not thought about this, is that you may have directly been responsible for the reopening of the government, because they were like, look, Disney's like, and immediately we get a resub thanks to Animus Maelstrom. I think that was very appropriate, Animus. You're like, that deserves a sub.
I don't want
it's Disney. Like Mickey Mouse went into Trump and was like, look, either you do this or I'm going to Disney, fire you, and you're not going to want that.
Disney on you, like Ving Rhames in Pulp Fiction, So anyway, I'm here. I'm happy. I was flying all day long, and now I'm ready to play some games.
Awesome. Who are you playing today, Carlos?
I am playing Ludicrous Sleepwell, the Volna healer with a mouth double the size of his head.
Yes, we've had a chance to see some examples of said thing up to this point. Well, it is my great pleasure to get us back underway here. So, quick summary of what happened in our last session. These folks have been on the smuggler's ship, the Tangerel, for the last couple of sessions as they've been clearing it out after this Dead Space experience of having these terrible bladed creatures known as Kanasi, which ended up attacking them. Through the course of their investigation of the ship, after they were abandoned by the person who brought them to it, whose name was Spindra, what they discovered was that this smuggler ship actually had been carrying quite a bit of cargo that wasn't legal, but one particular form of cargo, and it was in fact the Kanasi itself, and that somehow the Kanasi had been released from their crates, these specialty crates where they were sort of sitting in semi-hibernation, where they were being clearly brought to some place to be offloaded and then used. And so the party discovered not only that, but also discovered the nature of where this place was, a particular mining colony that they were headed towards that had some connections to them. And in particular, one of the connections had to do with Petra, who had found some information about this friend of hers, Tizora Marakli, who was a longtime friend of Petra's, kind of frenemy, I guess, a person who had caused issues for Petra in the past. And they discovered that she was somehow connected to this, and that these things were being delivered to something known only as the ST base. There was never any description as to what that meant or why or the circumstances involved, but there was something about that. The party then had a decision to make, which is, okay, we don't really have enough fuel to get back to the station Pelsaros, where presumably they are going to read Spindra the Riot Act at best, and perhaps much worse than that at worst. We don't have the ability to get back there so that we can repair the Hyperlance, the really ship that we want to fix. So where are we going to go? So the choices they had were this basically this colony, this mining colony area that was basically the destination that apparently was still in the nav computer, or to go to a separate place, a planet called Loren Ja. Now, it was right towards the end of the last session that the party had been thinking about where could we go instead, and they said, well, what about this planet? And I had said, well, Loren Ja is a fairly well-known, prominent planet, but at least it's, doesn't seem to have any, it's not sort of out on the edges of nowhere. I will fully admit that since then I have done some I have gathered more information. The universe has made itself more clear to me. And so, as I told the crew, it turns out that Lorenja is actually the home system of the Lorendi Imperium. For those of you who've been watching this since the beginning, you may remember that Petra, Aramis, Zarina, and Cosmeritis actually escaped from the Eos Keldor, which was one of the flagships of the Lorendi Imperium, escaped while the Eos Keldor was under attack, and they have, to a certain extent, been on the run from the Lorendi since then. So, as it was put to me by the universe, going to Lorenja would be somewhat like checking into the Death Star for a pleasant hotel stay. And I was like, okay, I will pass this on to them. So now the party, armed with this universal knowledge that has come to them, will have to decide what they want to do. At the very end of the last session, they were about to set off on their journey towards wherever, originally Lorenja. We'll see if they still want to do that. And as they were doing so, one of the options that popped up on the computer screen was this button that suggested they could enable the stealth system. And they had not had a chance to react to that when the session came to a close. And so as we begin today, I will again throw it over to the party and ask them, armed with this new knowledge, what do you want to do?
Well, first I wanted to ask if we should roleplay gaining this knowledge somehow so that we can sort of build in the idea that something...
I would normally have done that, but here's why I didn't want to do it in this case. Lorenja is such a big system that you would have probably known this already. And the only reason you didn't is because of a certain snafu in Google consciousness known as the GM didn't know.
I got it. This is actually what happened. Is like everybody's like, this is a really shitty idea, but nobody wanted to be the one to say it. And so everybody was like, no, somebody's got to say no, right? Somebody's going to, like, if we just keep, and then like we kept going, and all of us were just like, wait. But this is how we got this far. Johnny thinks it's a great idea. I can tell.
Okay, what is it?
Oh no, I was just going to point out that there was only one of us that said that this was a bad idea.
Yeah, that's what
I just want to highlight that right now. Because that's how Aramis is going to play this. Because when Sleepwell realizes that we were actually in jail for these guys, he's going to also see that this is a bad idea. And it's going to be just beautiful.
Yeah, well, so the way that I was thinking is that for whatever reason, Sleepwell, he grew up on a pretty isolated planet, among the cat people. He might not have known about it.
Maybe. Okay.
So, like, that's what I was thinking. Like, that's why he was advocating. He was just looking at a spot on the map that was not this place that was, like, Smuggler's Den. So, it was just him being ignorant and bossy.
So should we back up slightly then and back up to the point where Aramis is like, you shouldn't do this, and you, Sleepwell, are kind of like, why not? It's a great planet. At which point Aramis is like, do you know what that place is? Like, I mean, we could definitely back up to that if you want. Again, I do want to say, I am not restricting you because, you were concerned about going to this place, as I recall. You were worried about going to this mining colony because you were worried that you were going to have to explain why you had this material that clearly wasn't yours that you were going to someone else with, and that was your concern about walking into a trap. So, there's danger everywhere you go, so I do not want to restrict you. If you want to, I have prepared myself so that if you decide, like, hell yeah, the Death Star is nice this time of year, I'm down with that. But I just wanted to let you know that there were concerns about that among the powers that be.
I don't know if we should back up necessarily. Well, I'm up for anything. I don't know.
Yeah, it's up to you.
I'm going to play it as though I glitched and am suddenly horrified to realize that we are talking about a place that is totally different than the place I was thinking, but I'm determined to play it off.
Well, okay.
So that's what I'm doing.
Like, you're good with it, you mean?
I'm pretending that I knew what we were doing, but actually I'm suddenly, oh shit.
Okay.
Yeah. So where we left off was the button just appeared, but I was alone at the helm of the ship.
True.
When I see that. So the thing I'll do is I'll be still feeling smug about, apparently having, won an argument or something against Aramis. I'm going to flip on the communicator, the system-wide communicator, and just be like, hey, everybody, there's a button on here now that says stealth. Before you pass out, come up to the helm.
No.
Come on, Aramis. We're all friends here. You don't have to hold a grudge, man. You got outvoted, but maybe you'll win the next one if you ever have a good idea again.
Aramis is drinking, and he's turned off his communicator, so he will not be there. Cause, however, will be there.
Okay. So, Petra, are you?
I'm going up.
All right, you're gonna go up to the helm. As I think will cause. Okay.
And so, I just pointed. It's like there's a button on here that says stealth now.
Let's engage that. I think engaging that's a good idea.
And
I'm
Aramis,
reaching out towards it very slowly to see if anyone's stopping me.
No.
Okay, so I think Cause would ask you to kind of figure out, because Aramis is definitely not going to be there. He's done with his conversation. He's done with his moved on to drink. But Cause would definitely point out that you might want to figure out. He would like have a more practical concern, make sure that the amount of energy that the stealth mode actually requires would actually be, something that would be sufficient for what we have,
Right.
in conjunction with the fact that we're going to the to the central sort of home planet of the Lorinde. So he's going to be cautious about that.
I think though, Johnny, really to make the moment sing, you have to do your Zach Clay impersonation.
Well,
Start by deepening your voice.
Yeah, you got to go deep.
Add the Bob Ross.
well, I think that we should check the amount of fuel that is going to be consumed by enabling this before we make any hasty decisions. Excuse me. I don't know what was going on there.
That was the best.
Pretty cool. No.
Oh man.
All right.
No, make him say something silly.
Watch the
Oh man.
Supercalifragilistic.
Oh man. This is also setting a shot across the bow to anyone's like, Jesus, if I miss, what are they gonna do to me? Like while I'm gone, they're just gonna be like, oh man.
Oh God.
They'll have Sleepwell in a litter box. Like it's gonna be really unpleasant. Oh man.
Aramis is going to start living a chaste life the next time he leaves.
Yeah, exactly. I've decided to convert and okay, so all right, so so he's concerned about that. So he said that you guys haven't actually pressed the button yet. Although
So we don't press the button yet. What Petra was leaning toward it. So I say, so I put a hand up and I said, like, computer. I'm sorry, I forget. Does this computer respond to voice?
it has not really done so. No, it's been sort of touchscreen stuff with that thing in front of the captain's chair.
So I'm going to, just from what we've learned about it so far, I'm just going to try to explore to see if we get any information now about stealth, like if we can look in the documentation anywhere.
Okay. Why don't you make a computers check for me, please? Sleep well.
Okay. So that is...
That's quality work, Johnny. Quality work.
Oh my God.
I'll be here all week.
It really is Bob Ross. Happy little Kanasi over here.
18?
Yes. Okay, so when you do a little bit of research into this as you're sort of checking through the menus, you can tell based upon certain gauges and sort of numbers that pop up that the stealth system does indeed consume some extra energy. Basically, what it seems to be is a series of reflectors that are placed on the outside of the ship that are able to essentially selectively bend light. And to jump out of game for just a moment, if any of you know anything about the cloaking device, the Romulan cloaking device in Star Trek, the problem always was that the power cost to do this is enormous, right? To actually, bend light selectively and to do so even when the ship is moving. That seems to be somewhat similar here, although it is not nearly to that degree. The impression that you get is that you could basically use the stealth system in bursts and not have any long-term impact on fuel. But if you try to leave it on, like, just now until wherever you get to, it's going to burn out your energy reserves too quickly. So you could use it for a period of time at a time, like a 10-minute burst, 15-minute burst, or whatever. You could probably use if you're careful. But in terms of long-term, you can do this for as long as it takes to orbit a planet and go around. That seems unlikely without being able to get more fuel to get more energy, basically, to restock.
So I basically summarize that for the group and
Okay.
say, so we can do like 10 or 15 minutes at a time, but we can't just leave it on forever. But we won't even need it now. We're going to this Lauren Ja place, right? So that's we don't need stealth there.
I'm a little worried about this Lauren Ja place.
Why?
Well, I don't know if we talked a lot about like how Aramis and Cosmardus and our friend who has since wandered along all met, but it was sort of in a situation which some people might describe as actually in prison, depending on how you wanted to define things. And it
I'm leaning in.
I'm just not really sure that we want to go back to those circumstances.
But what? You were at Lauren Ja before?
No, well, no. Greg, I don't remember the name of it. It was like Hell.
The ship, you mean, or
No, the prison ship that we were on.
yeah, it was the Eos Keldor. Was the name of the ship that you escaped from. That was literally the prison ship.
Right. So we weren't on a prison planet so much as like a vehicle that occasionally got used as a prison from time to time.
And that came from Lauren Ja? That's where it came from?
I might have hooked up in the same sort of great, vast military industrial complex. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
It's a complicated universe, Speedwell. It's, everything's connected to some extent.
So he's really leaning in, try to follow this. It's like, so are you saying that if you go to Lauren Ja, they're gonna put you in another one of these incarceration ships and like fly you around?
I'm saying that if not just me, but Aramis or Cosmardus, however one likes to pronounce it, and I'll kind of turn and gesture at him. If any of us get entered into their computer system, yes, I think a big red light will begin flashing, and then there will begin to be people shouting, and then we're going to have to shoot our way out of things in the way that we occasionally seem to have to do.
This is crazy. Why didn't you say this before?
Well, I got confused because planet names sound a lot alike to me sometimes.
That sounds even worse than the smuggler's den place.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, probably. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So now, oh God.
And that's why I'm pro stealth mode.
It's very hard not to laugh. So sleep well. It's just sort of like. So basically, Aramis is right.
One of the things so there's two things you need to learn about Aramis. And one is that he's frequently right. And two is that he's never what we call like a good winner in these moments. So I would prepare myself for a great deal to be said on the subject. And this is why I think you should be the one to broach this to him.
I am not talking to him. You're the one who knew that this was a prison planet.
I don't memorize the names of planets.
I
rely on. Most of my time I am spending thinking about recipes cuisines, philosophical nuances of the universe. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about planet names. This one, it suddenly struck to me, seemed familiar. I thought back. I was like, oh. And so I'm raising this question, and now I'm going to just turn to Kaz and sort of gesture a little helplessly. Don't you think he should talk to him? I think he's the logical one to do it.
I am not.
Aramis is, he's kind of a jerk sometimes, but it might be best coming from you.
How is it best coming from me? He hates me. He hates me. He pets my head like I'm an actual cat. He's patronizing, and he's a drunk.
You don't like it when we pet you?
No.
Ah.
Well, sometimes, but not when he does.
I guess I can return that scratching post for Space Christmas.
For Space Christmas.
Yeah, it might be better if you tell him. It'll get you on his good side eventually.
So, Sleepwell basically just walks over to the dead torso captain and just kind of like contemplates him for a half minute, staring deeply and talking to the corpse, not to the other two. He says, "My mentor was very wise, and he was killed because for what he believed in. And he told me to always admit when I was wrong. So, okay, I'll go talk to Aramis. I will admit I was wrong quickly, and then I will leave, and then I will go to bed." And I kind of like, with great swanning dignity, walk out of the helm and toward Aramis' sleeping quarters.
And as Sleepwell does this, Zach and I are exchanging glances and just following after because we would like to see.
Okay. I just want to be clear, though. Does that mean that there's no one on the bridge at the moment?
Oh, I
That's
suppose.
the dog, I think.
Well, yeah, it's true. Sprocket has got it, I'm sure.
And we'll stay up there, but we will kind of try to monitor it via camera.
Okay. Yeah, you could do that. You can certainly turn on the audio in the ship as well. Aramis, I believe, is down in the galley, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so
That would be correct.
all right. So, and I think probably that's where he said Sleepwell is where he's going. So presumably that's where you would follow him.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I thought he was in sleeping quarters, but yeah, so I'll head to the galley if that's where he is.
Okay.
So the door to the galley is closed?
When you get up to it, yes.
Yes.
The galley door is closed. Yes.
Is there a way to access a computer communication system here, like from the outside?
Not from outside the no, not from outside the door. There's probably the only way that you could access a communication system, a rudimentary one, would be in one of the hangars. You remember the hangar bay to the north and the south, the top and the bottom of the ship, basically, right and the left of the ship.
So I take a deep breath. I kind of just like walk straight in, walk right up to Aramis and say, "Look, it seems that you were right. It's a prison planet. It's probably a best idea. Let's go to the smuggler's place." "All right, great talk. Goodbye." And I just turn around and walk out.
Ho.
So I stop mid-wolf step.
Who told you?
Petra seemed to suddenly remember that you were all in a prison ship that came from Lauren Jaw.
We were trying to protect you, kid. We were trying to look out for your best interest. You don't want to get a record like we have with little Rendy.
I've never even heard of them. All right, but I mean, yeah, a whole planet that wants you dead, that's bad. If we could just like be able to talk in a way where you can communicate danger to me and I can understand danger from you and we can avoid danger in general, I think that'd be good, don't you?
So what you're saying is you want me to say danger.
That's a start. Like it's a keyword, right? So now I know to take you really seriously, and I will not just think that you're being sarcastic, which is about 87% of your conversation. Look, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. I am obviously being sarcastic too. So
Look, kid, you got guts. I'll give you that. You've made some good calls. You've made some bad calls. We all do it. You're young enough that you don't remember the war. That's fine. But you did good this time. We'll figure it out. And he grabs his drink and he says, let's go figure this out. And I kind of lead him back to the ship, or back to the bridge. Okay. Sipping my space whiskey all the while.
Okay.
And I had, as well as my cat face can smile, I, kind of like put a little smirk on my head and said, well, that didn't go so bad. Follow after.
Okay. It's too bad that you couldn't have the ship on autopilot, so you could have bumped into Petra and Kaz listening on the outside of the door, trying to see what happened. But no, instead. Okay, so you arrive when you get back to the bridge. Of course, Petra and Kaz, who did have a chance to monitor that audio-wise, are there when you arrive back at the bridge.
There's still good reason to go where the kid wants to go. I can see that. But the reality is that we know that what's there waiting for us.
Oh, and then I jump in. It's like, but Aramis, there's actually a good reason to do your plan. Look, there's a stealth button. And then I kind of like give the quick, 5-second summary of like 10 minutes of stealth.
That's going to last us a bit longer at the smuggler base rather than the Lorindi. But
I think we're going to get a much warmer welcome at the smuggler base, no matter what.
If by blaster fire is what you mean warm, then I completely agree with you. But it's better than having the whole Lorindi armada on top of us.
But now there's a new factor. We can go in quiet, take a look around, scan some things, work up an actual plan. Before, I didn't see a way to it, but given what Lauren Jaw is and this new button that we have, it might make more sense now.
Aramis walks up to the navigation system and double checks that we still have enough fuel to be able to actually head to the smuggler base.
Yeah, you have not been going too long towards Lauren Jaw, so it looks like you would have enough. Same situation as before, which is you'd have to, you don't have enough to get back to Pelseros, but you would be able to, because you kind of were going a little bit out of the way, but not too much, since you were heading to the north, essentially. Doesn't make much sense in space, but you were heading in that general direction, so you actually be able to make the turn towards the base without too much difficulty, or towards the mining colony.
It looks like we got enough fuel. Petra, what do you think?
I feel a little foolish about not recognizing the words Lauren Jaw at first, but man, I just think the minute we pop up our heads there, they're going to try and put us back in cages.
Kaz pipes up. I agree. And Aramis kind of, looks at the two of them, looks back to Sleepo and says, well, kid, you're the captain. punch it in.
So I say like, all right, so yeah, I punch in the coordinates and press go to take us to the smugglers down there.
Okay, and the ship banks and begins to move in that direction. So the travel to this place takes a couple of days, and I'm curious, before I talk about what happens, it passes relatively uneventfully in terms of travel time. Is there anything else that you folks want to be doing as you are in the process of traveling there? Either, do you want to searching any more of the ship, making the Kanasi that survived into a pet? Is there anything else that you have interest in doing while you were in transit there? Because I'll give you a chance to do that if you wish before we talk about what happens when you arrive.
So, a couple things. First of all, this is a long rest, right? So we get to reset?
That is correct. Yes, this is a long rest. Also, hey, Shadowed, what's up?
So I wanted to remind us, I think Kaz had something that he was looking to do for a while, but he just hadn't had time to do it, and this would be the time to do it. I just can't quite remember what it was.
I believe he was making reference to trying to figure out details about the coil, that sort of healing coil that he had, and being able to find out if because he had found another such coil, and to see if he would actually be able to queue it up to be able to sync it up to his system. Which I would say he is probably going to be able to do, although I'm going to ask Johnny to make a mechanics check for him as he's in the process of making it happen. And if I'm wrong and there's something else he wanted to do, we'll see. But I think that's what he was thinking about.
Can I assist him in that role, since I have good mechanics?
Sure, absolutely you can. So I would say, I don't think it would be an advantage, but you could probably do it, add, let's say, +3 to that roll then, Johnny.
Okay, so his proficiency is +3 at that point, so it's going to be a +6 altogether.
Okay.
How's a 14?
Yeah, so it works somewhat. The impression that he gets is that these coils can indeed connect to his system, but as opposed to the other one that he had, which seemed to be better attuned, this one, whether it's because the energy is not quite the same or because it was drained for longer or whatever, is not quite as effective. So basically this other coil that he has is half as effective as the one that he had already. The good news is that he is able to recharge, though, that other healing coil. So he's got a fully charged healing coil and then a half-charged one, basically, that he can use.
So during this long rest, Sleepo wants to do two things. If you'll remember, when we faced the space slug, he had taken a goodly portion of the thing and wanted it basically to try and sell. So he wants to kind of do the same thing with the Kanasi, to see if he can pull off a significant souvenir, if you will, that might be of interest to, say, like somebody who wants to study this technology or things like that.
Okay. Sure. So is this, he wants to be able to sort of scan databanks and kind of look for things like that, or just is this an investigation of the Kanasi itself?
So both and, if that's all right, but
Okay.
he'll definitely perform autopsies and try to capture sort of like information that might not be generally available on a database, to add to knowledge.
Okay, let me have you make for that then. I'm going to have you make an investigation check for that. We're going to see about how much sort of secret information might be available. Yeah, roll a butcher check. No, no. The question is not about his ability to do, not his ability to actually do the autopsy, but whether he gathers new information that might not otherwise be available.
16.
So when you're in the process of doing this, Sleepwell, you discover something very odd about these creatures, and that is that although they clearly have a significantly synthetic component to them, they obviously do have sort of power plants. Almost literally, you can see areas that are chargeable. They connect with cables to be able to charge up power and things of this nature. But you also notice what looks like essentially versions of nerve centers, and even what might be kind of like in a human or a humanoid, sort of like a cerebral cortex, which suggests that they may not be so much mechanical controlled creatures as hybrids. In fact, you don't know this, of course, because there's only so much you can tell from a mechanical investigation. But it would not surprise you if these creatures have their own independent thought processes in addition to whatever is controlling them. In other words, they probably could make decisions for themselves under certain circumstances.
Interesting. And so, I don't know if this would require a separate like medicine check or something, but like the cerebral cortex, does it look like it has two hemispheres, a corpus callosum? Like, does it look like a brain, or does it look like a ganglion? Or...
Yeah, I was gonna say it looks more like that. So it does not have two hemispheres, but it does have sort of one unified brain structure, and in fact, it's smaller than what a human or humanoid brain would look like. But the sort of it's not really a spinal column, but the sort of area, the nerve bundles, kind of lead down into the metallic body of the thing, at which point they end up just sort of threading into the other creature. Now, the thing that's interesting is that the power connection that I referenced connects very close to that brain center.
Okay. So, yeah, I'd like to take a brain as a souvenir.
Okay. Now, are you going to try to put this, are you going to try to preserve it? Or are you just like, because if you're trying to preserve it for later reanimation, that's going to be a different thing than if you're just trying to keep it from breaking apart. Like you could put it in a box or something like that, but if you're going to try to preserve it more than that, that'll be more challenging.
Yeah, I think what I'd like to do is get the best medical sample I possibly could, which means preserving it as best I can. You know, I have a little medical kit and stuff that I can use for this sort of thing. So,
okay, I'm going to give you a medicine check for that then, but I'm going to have you do it at +3 because you do have time, but that doesn't guarantee it'll work. So you can do a medicine check at +3 and we'll see how well you preserve this.
Okay, so that gives me a total of +7.
Yep. Now be aware. Okay, that's fine. I was about to say if you like critically missed, like you could damage this thing, but I would say that with that number, I would say that the brain looks as if it is somewhat preserved, but there is only a limited amount of stuff. Clearly, the Tangrel was not designed as a medical frigate. You know, as you're kind of working through things, you're kind of like, Jesus, these people have even like bandages? Like, what do they actually do? They were not heavy into the healing people. And so you've had to sort of jury rig a lot of stuff. You think that this is a brain which will be preserved for some time, but not a long time. If you are, you know, several weeks without being able to get this into a more elaborate facility, it's probably not going to be viable at all.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, and also one other thing, the stuff within which you keep it is not 100% indestructible. Now, you're not keeping it in a glass jar, but if you take falls, if someone, you know, hits you with a club in the back or whatever where you're keeping it, it could be damaged. So just be aware of that. Okay, Petra, while you were in the midst of doing this, we know what Kaz is doing. I want to know what you and Aramis would like to do over this time.
I am doing two things. And one is that I am checking the galley and seeing if there's anything interesting in terms of spices or cooking equipment there in my endless quest. The other thing is that Petra's been going through a lot of changes, and she is spending a certain amount of time meditating and just sort of thinking about what could be going on.
Okay. And I'm curious if, we have a raid. Hello, Hadnix. Thank you, Hadnix, for the raid. I appreciate it. Thank you, Hadnix. Let me ask you, Petra, how is that meditation proceeding? Where are you doing it, and what's the nature of what you're trying to meditate about? Like, and I know you said you want to learn more about what's going on. Can you specify?
So basically, she's sitting by herself. She's trying to find a space that's quiet, where people aren't going to come in and talk to her. And she's clearing her head, and she's trying to figure out what her place in the universe is. And she's convinced that if she just thinks about it hard enough, she'll be able to.
Okay. Where? Now, you said a place where it's quiet. you could make that happen in different places. Where would you like the quiet place to be?
Down towards the lower regions of the ship.
Okay. So when you begin to do this, which is a little bit of an uncomfortable state for you because you've tended to be a little bit more active. In fact, this has been the chance. All of you have not had a chance to take too much of a breath until now where things are there. Hey, what's up, Glog? Yeah, thank you so much, Raiders. Good to see you, Glog. What's up, man? And thank you again so much, Hadnix. And what's up, Ambrazine? Welcome, everybody. When you are in the midst of sort of meditation the first day, not a whole lot happens other than just sort of hearing the hum of the ship below you, looking at the now mostly opened black crates, except for the one that's, half closed, basically, that has the still remaining intact Kanasi. And as you're sort of sitting there going through that first night, not a whole lot comes to you, but you are nothing if not determined. And on the second day, you are sitting in the same spot, sort of, I imagine it, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, as sort of you being cross-legged with your hammer, Mjolnir style, head down with the handle up, I'm guessing, and sort of imagining kind of in meditation. You've been at this for a while when you hear a voice that is coming, seems to be coming from the hangar bay that is up a level and over. So remember, you've got the main hold. In fact, here, instead of let me just bring up the map. The inside map. So we are all here on the Tangrel. And so I'm assuming you are... Where's Petra? There's Petra. I'm assuming you're here, Petra. And
Okay.
you hear a sound of some kind. And it sounds almost like a whispering, really, coming from here. It's coming from the hangar bay where the one remaining shuttle is. And you hear a whispering that sounds like... You can't make it out. It might be a different language, or it might be a language that you speak, but you just can't hear it well. And it was definitely not happening before, and it definitely does not sound like any of the voices of any of your companions, although, again, it is not very audible.
I will follow the sound.
Okay, so when you go up to and around, the voice gets louder, and when you enter the hangar bay, which I think I'll move you just... I don't mean to be moving you around, but I'll put you here. You hear that the sound is coming from over here, and as you look, it seems to be coming, actually, from the terminal. You may remember that there are two sort of sub-terminals, one here and one in the other hangar bay down below, and then there's the main terminal, obviously, on the bridge. But it's coming from there, and the sound, the sounds you hear are, Petra, Petra, the memories await, Petra. Petra, the memories await. Seems to be a message repeating.
So I will go over to the terminal.
When you look into the terminal, you see in it... Now remember, the terminal itself is just it's just a dumb terminal. So it's got, different little buttons that you can press and things like that. But it's not even like the somewhat more complex and comprehensive terminal on the bridge. And it's nothing like the computer stuff on the Hyperlance. This is a smuggler's ship, but it's not designed for tons and tons of bells and whistles. But when you look down into this thing, what you see on the terminal is a what looks like a three-dimensional face. And it is a three-dimensional face of an Ashenforged. The voice that you hear is the same voice that you have heard before on several occasions emanating from computer terminals. We've talked about this before. It's the same voice that you hear, but this is the first time that you've seen this face. And as you look down and you're looking at the face which has been speaking, the memories await. It sees you, and the eyes are looking at you, and it says, Petra, you have come. And then falls silent.
Say yes, I'm here. What do you want from me?
must seek out your memory. The link from past to present to future. You must seek out who you are. I am Temerian. Now, when you hear the name Temerian, I would like you to, I'm going to ask you to roll a check here to see if you know what the devil Temerian means, because it sounds very familiar to you. This would be a lore check, but I'm going to ask you to do this one at +3.
Alrighty. 12.
You have heard the name Temerian before, although you don't remember exactly the circumstances. But you know that the Temerian was a legendary Ashenforged. What you don't remember is why, because it was always a little bit unclear as to why. Like, you remember others talking about Temerian, and people around you, including when you were created, those around you, what they said about them. But you don't remember what was legendary about this Temerian, but it is a name that is known to many Ashenforged.
Okay.
And so this Ashenforged face still looks at you, having said, I am Temerian, and is silent again.
I'm going to say, where am I supposed to seek? The universe is pretty large.
The universe is as large or as small as your mind makes it. Seek within yourself and your past.
I'm going to scowl at the terminal somewhat dubiously in a Petra-like fashion, then nod.
And the face says, I am Temerian. Temerian is the way, and you will remember. And then it stops dead and cuts out. So it's just remember, and the screen goes blank, and suddenly you're just looking at a dumb terminal again.
I will grumpily go back to my meditating place and sit down in a huff, because this is all terribly confusing. I'm not very happy about mysterious voices. This is not how meditating is supposed to work with mysterious voices.
Supposed to know exactly where the voices are coming from.
That's it.
Okay. You return to your meditation, and the rest of the meditation that night is uneventful.
Okay.
But this memory of this voice and name remains with you. Okay. The last one that we haven't spoken to yet is Aramis. Aramis, what are you doing during this time, besides trying different brands of whiskey, I assume, or as many as you can put together, but besides that?
Well, as many as I can put together, but also scrounging for some sorium. I'm looking for a small bit of sorium.
Okay. Well, you can certainly find some actually in the crate that you brought on board, but there's not a whole lot left because you've been using it for fuel.
Right. So what I'm looking for, so there's a particular thing that Aramis would like to do, but it requires a small amount of sorium. So about what would be considered, I guess, according to the talent, it lists it as 100 CU of sorium.
Okay.
So a pretty small amount.
Be aware that if you're going to do that, that's doable, and it's not going to turn off the ship. But if you do that, be aware that it will cause a small but measurable drop in energy level. An energy level drop which could be sensed later on or noticed. I don't know whether that matters to you or not.
Aramis would definitely not take that risk, especially after the exchange that happened on the bridge. So
doesn't mean that it will be noticed, by the way, just that it could be.
No, he's not. He's gonna take that risk at this particular point. So he's actually going to instead just drink himself into a stupor for the next couple of days and just try to heal up.
As someone who doesn't drink himself, I'm going to officially feel guilty that I pushed you into drinking yourself into a stupor. That was okay. All right. So you are able to do that, although the methods, the numbers of whiskeys available to you are disappointingly limited, unfortunately, on board the Tangrel. Apparently, it was red, white, and blue for all my men. If any of you know the only thing I know about terrible beer, which is you can get a case of it at the time for about $5, which is not a lot of money for a case unless it's not great alcohol. So I was told by those who drank. Anyway, okay. On the third day, you find yourself. I'm going to pull us back over to the galaxy map here. On the third day, you find yourself. Oh, and sorry, one last note before we leave that behind, which is to say, all of you are welcome to or not relate any of what you found or not about all the things you were independently doing. So that's up to you. This is not stuff you have to keep to yourself if you don't want to, but you may if you so choose.
I'm gonna.
Yeah, go ahead,
ask
Petra.
my fellow Ashen Forged if he remembers anything about Temerian.
Aramis, roll a lore check for me. Let's see if you do. And Aramis, I'm going to say that you can roll this actually also +3.
Interesting. That's really helpful actually, because I happen to have proficiency in lore.
Mm-hmm.
And so, how does a 23 sit you?
You sure do know about Temerian. Not only is Temerian considered a legendary Ashenforged, Temerian is legendary because he, as far as you know, is the only Ashenforged in galactic knowledge who remembered who he was and where he came from. Up to this point, it was believed that Ashenforge would never be able to access their previous memories and sort of the hosts that they had originally been a part of. Sometimes they were not just one person. Sometimes, Ashenforge can be 10 different people that have all been assembled in this way. And so it was always believed that the process of doing that essentially created an unbreakable wall between you and that moment. But Temerian did remember, and for the first time could actually maintain memories, and thus became almost legendary in Ashenforge society, because here was a society which is in some ways very young, right? And in some ways very ancient, but its ancient times was shut off from it because the Ashenforged only remembered as far as their time of creation. So the Ashenforged were this strange kind of dual race, many of whom had crisis of identity, quite literally, for reasons that we've talked about. And in fact, you yourself, Aramis, have had a little bit of that yourself in this process. So I don't know how you would, I have a guess about how you feel about the character of Temerian or the legend of Temerian, but I won't tell that to you. But you know for sure that is why he is a legendary figure. He remembered.
Actually, has been alluded to, Aramis would definitely pay attention to pretty much anything that involved Temerian at that.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that it would be an obvious sort of, response of hell yes. And Aramis would then launch into sort of a long sort of professor-like sort of, dissertation on what he knew about Temerian.
Okay.
Which would be probably that much, but he's trying to look knowledgeable, and he's drunk.
So Petra would wait patiently, listening, and then say, are there any legends about Temerian talking to other Ashenforged?
Would we know whether he was still in existence? If he's one of the first Ashenforged, he might be pushing that.
Correct. He vanished. Temerian vanished from knowledge a long time ago. Although, in fairness, it's true that his body's destruction was never recorded. But it has been, as far as you know from the history books, centuries since anyone has ever seen or heard or anything of him. And it's not because people wouldn't have been looking for him. I mean, there were Ashenforged who definitely would have wanted to find Temerian, because it would have been like, finding the father of your race, like not quite that much, but pretty close. And so, he has not been present in no one has seen or heard of anything of him for literally centuries.
Did Petra tell Aramis what she
No,
saw, or she just
all she said is, so are there any legends of Temerian talking to people? The Ashen Forge in particular?
no recorded record of his disappearance exists, his body's destruction, but he's been gone for centuries.
Hmm.
I mean, literally gone. No other recorded sighting has happened in recent memory.
So if you were experiencing Temerian speaking to you at odd moments, probably your first reaction would be that you're having a brain glitch, not that it's actually Temerian, this ancient Ashen Forge, speaking to you.
Petra, are you familiar with the ancient earth religion of Christianity?
No.
There's a lot of folklore around the idea that deities spoke to their followers and gave them inspiration and interesting information at times of great need. I'm not one to buy into that, space junk mumbo jumbo sort of everyday religion kind of stuff, but we've been on the run for a while. Bad things have happened to us. If I was hearing something that claimed to be Temerian, I might actually listen. Who knows? You might be the next Ashen Forged Messiah. I mean, we haven't had one yet, so you'd be the first. So that'd be amazing. But hey,
We're jumping very far here. But yes, perhaps I am the next Messiah. Yeah.
If someone asks you if you're the
says that
Messiah,
very
You say yes. Someone asks you.
Yes,
Here we go.
of course. And then she's just sort of going to wander away, sort of mid-conversation, and just leave Aramis guessing as to what the hell she's
well, as she's leaving, he raises his finger and he's got his, whiskey.
Exactly.
And he's like, and he goes back to drinking.
Good talk.
Oh man. All right.
I have a caffeine sick. I'll be right back.
Okay. So the rest of the journey, as I mentioned, passes somewhat uneventfully until you are beginning to close in on where this place is. Now, as you come close to where the coordinates claim that you're supposed to be heading to get to this mining colony, you notice that you were heading to what looks like an unmarked planet. You can actually see the front sensors of the Tangoroll picking it up, and you begin to see what looks like this enormous gas giant that you were heading towards. There are these swirling purplish clouds that are about it, and also what looks like a ring of presumably asteroids and debris of various kinds that is circling around at the other end. And as you're begin to do a little bit of work, presuming that Sleepwell who's doing this, Sleepwell, as you do some advanced scanning of it, you can actually see that according to scanners, the gas giant itself seems to be completely inhabitable. Like there's there's nothing that's going to be there. But there are, as you can see going close to it, a few items that are in orbit around the gas giant, including a couple of objects, which I'll describe in a minute, and then a number of moons. And in fact, it looks like there's at least 17 of these moons that are kind of orbiting the planet, that range from very tiny to fairly sizable that are floating around the planet. But there are also two other strange objects, and you're not able to get really a fix on them because the computer is spitting back weird information. Whenever you get to the moons, whenever you see the moons and you kind of fix on those, it gives you discernible readings, like gravity readings and all that kind of stuff, atmosphere or whatever. But when you get to these two objects, you get only one reading, and the reading is metallic. and there's some kind of metal that these objects are made of. And to know more, you would need to get the ship a little bit closer to them if you wanted. And there are 2 such objects, as I mentioned.
So are they moon-sized?
They are not moon-sized. They are smaller. They probably are smaller, in fact, than the smallest of the moons. They're not tiny, but they're smaller than the moons.
So like sort of like I don't know, like a Deep Space Nine kind of size.
They might be that size. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So on goes the intercom. Hey everybody, we've got a gas giant and 17 moons and 2 metal thingies. Want to come up?
Sure.
Use your big words, Sleepwell.
Thingamajigs.
Better.
Okay. When you come up to the bridge, you I assume that you fill them in Sleepwell, and they can see what it is basically that you see. As you get a little bit closer to the gas giant and then the moons and then these metallic objects, you can see that the objects are continuing to register as sort of that's the main thing. That's the sort of, how do I put this? The inert ingredient, let's say. The inert item that exists is some kind of metallic substance, but there is also some energy that is registering also, but it's not clear what the energy is. So as you get closer, there's energy, but there's also this metallic, substance that you see.
Is it in visual range yet?
Close. You have to get a little closer, but you're almost to visual range, yes.
And how far are we from the smuggler's place?
According to this, you're closing in on almost being on top of it, according to where the coordinates are.
So, I relay this as well, and I say,
but not, I'm sorry to interrupt, but not. It does not look like the coordinates directly correspond to the metal things, though. Just so we know.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So, I basically say, like, these metal things are weird, and it looks like they're made to be hidden. It could be that the smugglers use this as like someplace where they build stuff or someplace where they hide stuff.
Seems like a good time for stealth mode.
Agreed. I just go ahead and press it.
Okay. When you do this, and this is of course the first time that you've actually pressed it, and you feel the ship sort of shudder a little bit, and then you get this strange it's very slight, feeling of disorientation, as if, almost as if you're on board a ship at sea, on the water that's kind of slightly rocking, just a little bit. It doesn't look as if you're actually rocking, but it just, something feels a little off about it. And the system now has, on the terminal in front of you, you can see stealth system engaged. And so something weird has happened, but...
Yeah, so I say, well, now that we're presumably invisible, should we maybe go take a look?
I'm up for it. What do you think, Aramis? Kaz?
Kaz kind of looks around and says, okay. And Aramis, this was the better of the 2 options, so we better get started.
Okay, if you're going to that one, there's two of these metal objects. They look as if they're about equidistant from each other. One's, one metallic object at the moment is on the close side of the gas giant, one's on the far side, and they're rotating in fairly rapid orbit, but it's still, you could go to the closer one or the farther one. The farther one would probably take you about an hour or so to kind of sync up with it in terms of its orbit, or you could go to the one that's closer to you, which would be just, a matter of a couple of minutes. But they are definitely moving at the same speed around the gas giant, and they are, as I say, on opposite sides.
Yeah, I definitely steer us toward the closer one.
Okay.
Still in stealth mode.
When you get closer to it and you see this thing pop up into visual range, and all of you are actually able to see it on one of the vid screens that's in the front of the ship, you see something pop up which is a dark metallic cylinder. And as you get closer to it, you can see that this dark metallic cylinder is mounted on what looks like a fairly large planetoid, which was, I shouldn't say like larger than the moon, but still, decent sized, maybe planetoid's a little strong, asteroid, but the whole thing is clearly man-made, and this cylinder is pointing out from it. And as you now look at these sort of energy source that's associated with it, you're almost certain that what you're looking at is an older tech, but still frightening looking defense cannon. This thing looks big enough to punch holes through. Like, this probably would have done some damage to the Eos Keldor. This is a big cannon.
Whoa.
How's her fuel look?
At this rate, probably your fuel is somewhere in the 8 to 10% range. You're consuming it a little more quickly because of the stealth, but it's not like, it's not dropping like a point per second or something, but it is definitely using a little more fuel. Also, the cannon is pointed right at your ship, but is not powering up to fire or anything.
But it's not tracking us, is it?
It doesn't appear to be. It may just be luck that it happened to be pointing at your ship when you first got visual contact.
Yeah. I'll obviously take the long way around and try to get right out of its immediate track.
Yeah, it does not seem to be tracking towards you, but it is definitely facing outwards from the planet, and you can see areas where it could, in fact, swivel and sort of shift if need be.
So, Sleepwell kind of lights up and is like, I'm really glad we're invisible right now. But a cannon needs thorium. Maybe we could just drop in, steal its fuel, and get out before they even know we're here.
What makes you think that we're going to be able to do that? Look at the fuel. We don't have enough to get out of here unless we leave right now. And then we're stuck.
Well, we're basically right on top of the smuggler's base anyway. So, I don't think we're going to run out of fuel this second. And if there is thorium there, then we're set.
Okay. Let's do it.
Yeah? That easy?
What else are we going to do at this point? That's really Aramis's, part in all this.
Yeah.
What else? What other option do we have? So.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, Aramis. I will steer us right in there. Sitting up straight at the...
As you get closer to the thing, so you're now, clearly in beyond visual range, well within it. You do see something pop up on your terminal, which is a warning about a energy shield of some kind, either an obstacle or a force field or something like that, that is around this cannon. Now, you don't know whether or not, first of all, there's the one thing I want to note about that. If this is an older tech cannon, Sleepwell, that's a little weird. Like, most of the time, the older tech cannons there were defense cannons that planets certainly used all the time, or, small moons or bases to defend themselves. But most of the older tech ones sort of relied on, I destroy you with big gun before I have to worry about anything doing this. So the fact that this thing seems to be shielded is odd to you. That said, it does seem like it might be shielded. Now, you don't know how strong the shield is, or whether the ship or a smaller object could penetrate it, or what the, fuel cost might be to do so. But it definitely is shielded.
Does the shield extend around the entire planetoid/asteroid?
It looks to be, yeah. It looks to be controlled. And in fact, it may even be generated from inside the planetoid, from the asteroid, possibly.
So we haven't. So the only time we've ever encountered any type of shield was in, sort of in ship-to-ship combat, I believe.
Right.
we haven't encountered anything at all like this before, especially when we were going to either of the space stations.
One
Is that correct?
exception to that, which is that you have a couple of times, I think, encountered people that might have had personal shields to go around. So like individuals. Not many, but I think there was maybe one person that I'm remembering that you might have gotten into a fight with. I don't totally recall the details, but
was that the
had a
weird
personal
cyborg
shield.
thing that was in
Yeah.
the engine room?
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Which had this sort of, which had this kind of personal shield. No. I'm sorry. You're talking about the one that you just had last session. That
No,
weird
I'm talking
cyborg?
about the one that was way far back. When we were making the jump through the Irendi rift.
Yes. Yep. That is what. Yes. Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, but that, again, that was a personal one. So, it may or may not have anything to do with this. But yeah, you have not encountered this around. I mean, again, having something which can shield an entire, albeit small, but still, like asteroid / planetoid, that's a lot of power. But
So-
it means that it's...
Is there any way I can scan to see if the power is coming from within the planetoid or if it's being microwave beamed or anything like that?
Sure, you can try that. Let's have you make a computers check for me. Let's see what you're able to find out.
Hopefully this doesn't work out like Star Trek where they can detect when we're scanning them, but
We're being
shouldn't give the
probed,
GMA.
Captain. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Just a 9.
It's not clear. Part of the problem is that the energy signature is fairly significant here, so it's kind of like it's like turning a Geiger counter on something and being like, "Where's the radiation?" And it's like everywhere,
Right.
That's kind of the problem. There's a lot of energy from there. One thing you do notice is that the energy certainly drops off pretty much right outside the planetoid, but there are other energy signatures on other planets. Some of the other moons have higher energy signatures than others, in addition to these, synthetic planetoid one that you're talking about.
So, Sleepwell says, all right, so it looks like there's a shield around this thing. And look, I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong. Maybe it's not such a good idea to go in here. What other suggestions do we have?
do we legitimately have any other options? This is out of character for just a second.
Oh sure,
Is
there's plenty of moons around this thing. You've only looked at the 2 metal ones, but there's 17 other moons, so that are
Right.
cycling around it.
But are we seeing traffic from any of these other moons? Are we seeing, any type of activity or
Don't know yet because you haven't really gone close to those. You've only been looking so far at the 2 metallic ones that kind of well, and actually of those, only this one metallic one is the one that you got close enough to do all this sort of interior searching. The rest of it, you don't know. You haven't gotten close enough to see.
and we haven't seen any other type of traffic around these moons
Not
or
so far.
approaching this?
Not so far. It's a big gas giant, though, and, the moons do take a little while to orbit, so...
I say let's check out some non-metallic moons. Apologies for the 5 million traffic.
It's okay.
Yeah, so I say, okay, I'll take a look to the, first moon on the left.
Yeah, so how do you want to do this? Do you want to just sort of go through, moon by moon? Or...
Yeah, sort of like, using the scanners to guide. It's sort of like whatever's close by and whatever seems to have some kind of signatures that look interesting, more energy, that sort of thing.
So you see various, some of the moons have, it looks like no energy at all. And they're just sort of registering as dead, just presumably just moon planetoids kind of floating around in orbit around this gas giant. But you also notice a few that have some limited amounts of energy, and one in particular that clearly has a significant amount of energy, clearly more than the other 17 or the other 16 moons around it, and considerably more even than the energy signature that you were getting from the metallic objects. There's definitely one such moon. And the moon is roughly equidistant between the 2 metallic objects, which are, again, circling in a set kind of orbit. Yes, and one is clearly a Pizza Hut.
I say let's go to that one.
Well,
No,
and
that was-
I say, well, I mean, is that like smuggler home base? Like, should we be careful?
Can we scan it with the long range sensors of any kind? Is there anything we can do from a remote location?
You can do so, but you're going to get very limited information until you get closer. Most of the information you've gotten right now, so basically, you get more information the closer you get, and the more likely it is that you will be entering into contact with them, although you presumably do still have your stealth system on at the moment, so that may be helping.
What's our fuel look like?
Now I would say it was about, I think I said 8 or 9%. It's probably down 1% since you last looked at it, so maybe it's about 8 where it was at 9 before.
It's going to be our only option. Let's get in close, see if we can figure out if it's really going to be a risk, and then make our decision from there.
Sleepwell nods and says, "Aye, aye," and just steers him that way.
Okay. When you get closer to this particular moon, you begin to see that there are a number of things that begin to pop up on the computer screen listing it. You do sense, Aramis, Sleepwell informs you, energy signatures of ships both leaving and coming into the moon. And in fact, as you get closer, you see a couple of them. Now, these are small, almost trawler types that are kind of floating in and out. Stuff that would typically be used to kind of haul raw materials, from one moon to another or from one planetary system to another in some case. You do not see any kind of super zippy, impressive-looking fighters or anything like that, but you do see some of these trawlers, and you also see a couple of these ships that, while they look like they might be trawlers, also have basically a couple of what look like large cannons that could do some damage to people. So some of these ships are armed, is the point, and look as if they're ready for stuff, which is a little unusual for mining ships. Yeah, thanks, Brandhauser. Fortunately, I happen to know who that mysterious person was behind me. So as you get closer, you're able to see that. You're able to see some of these ships kind of coming in and leaving. And you begin to see certain protocols popping up on the screen as if you were picking up on bits and pieces of messages being sent back and forth. Now, you could try to sort of key in on those messages and hear them, but doing that will reveal to someone that you are doing so. So at the moment, nothing has been sent to you directly because you are currently stealthed. Once you start picking up on these messages, there is the risk that people would find out that you were there. And then, they might say, "Hello, strange ship, are you coming in for a landing?" I mean, you have no idea what they'll say, but...
So, Sleepwell is just sort of like, do you think we can just kind of like land and just sort of like take a look and just sort of like scout the area? That way we're not flying, but we can keep stealth on for longer?
I would think so.
What is more scouting going to do for us, Sleepwell?
I'm just thinking we should know our enemy. I don't know. I just, so Sleepwell is just kind of like, I thought this was a terrible idea. I don't know.
So when we see this moon where all this traffic is coming from, since we've gotten closer, what else can we tell about the surface itself, or where these ships are coming from or going to?
As you get closer, you can tell from sort of basic scanning that the moon here has an atmosphere, a thick atmosphere, but an atmosphere which it appears would probably be able to maintain humanoid life, but it looks like the air is thin down there. Basically, running in the mountains of Denver, for a while. You'd start feeling it after a while. But it does look like it's breathable. You also can tell that there are several what looks like population centers on the moon, although probably not very large ones. There is one that particularly seems to be larger than the others, and that, from what you can tell, is where the ships seem to be coming into and landing. Moreover, an automatic thing that pops up as you get closer, sort of kind of a sort of like almost a sort of a sign in space that anyone passing by universally would be able to see this pop up on their screen. Says headquarters Consolidated Interests Enrichment Corp.
So I point to one of the less populated areas and just sort of like, what if we go in kind of slow and, we can try to scout the area, blend in, maybe figure out a way to get what we need and get out fast.
Is there any type of local, like, media network that's broadcasting out of this place, that's sort of like broadcasting on all channels kind of a thing, or maybe there's some sort of
Yes.
news service or entertainment or whatever?
There definitely is, and you could definitely pop into it if you want.
Would we know if that would reveal us?
Probably not if you're just picking up this sort of general broadcast. The other stuff that I mentioned would be sort of ship-to-ship messages that would almost be sort of intercepting it, but that's not what this would be.
And then one other question before, is there any type of, like, air traffic control or sort of airspace control?
Yes, there is no question that those messages are going back and forth and are basically asking about landing protocols. Here's where you land. Requesting clearance to descend. Blah 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 blah. Very standard stuff that you would hear from any such thing.
Yeah, Aramis would sort of ponder what Sleepo was saying for just a second and then say, we don't have any information at all with what's down there. I agree, picking a rural area and sort of finding our way to sort of the center is probably the right thing to do. At the same time, maybe taking a moment and kind of checking into the public broadcasts and seeing if there's some element of information that we can glean from, the disposition of this particular place, the current, sort of political or, civil climate. Hell, we might even figure out if it's really just that a corporate colony and corporate law rules here.
All right. Well, let's Consolidated Interests Enrichment Corps and chill. And so I flip on the media.
Okay. So when you pop it up, the first thing you hear is this. And you hear this sort of going for a while. This kind of like sort of disco style, some kind of techno music of some kind. Got a good beat.
Is it called techno disco?
Yes. It's actually called techno disco. Exactly. So you all kind of like kick it back. Techno disco, exactly, Prince Justin. Techno disco, the music of the future. So you're listening to this, and it's all very, very super cool. And then it comes down, and you hear, "Welcome, welcome, members of the Consolidated Community. I am your host and DJ, Claude Devon." And he says some weird, like, quick name that you don't really catch, like Klana something, but you don't really... Klonopin? You have no idea what the heck he said. Klana something. And he says, "You're listening to the only radio that matters on this side of the gas giant. Come and join me for the next several cycles as we go around and around this planet, living in this universe and making the money. Make sure that you check out our daylight show and evening show. You're going to be listening to music for a long time. Let's turn it up." And then it comes back up. And this seems like it would go on for a considerable period of time. Yeah, you hear the bass drop. Yeah, exactly. So yes. And that seems to be it. There doesn't seem to be any like news coming through here.
And that's the only sort of media broadcast that's going on, or any type of...
Apparently right now. Again, there are other specific ones that I mentioned before. Like there are specific are like specific messages, but those are the ones that might, reveal your presence if you were to listen in on them.
I was like, well, let's leave it on. Maybe there'll be some commercials or something that will tell us something. But we know that they have like a radio station that's devoted just to fun, which doesn't sound like the sort of thing a smuggler would broadcast. So maybe they have a good cover story and the smuggling stuff is just underneath. Maybe we could land and they wouldn't really care if we had a good cover story.
I don't know, kid. I've been to so many backwater places. You never know what you're going to find. They may be all happy and hunky-dory playing their technical music and might shoot you all at the same time.
So back to the original plan, try to find a little rural place and make our way.
I agree. I'm in.
What do you think, Kaz?
Uh-huh.
I feel like Kaz is starting to mail it in a little bit. I mean, like, really.
Well, I really think that we should take the time to find the right place and hide the ship appropriately. Zach is gonna kill me.
Better.
So great.
It's gonna be like, what? Okay. All right.
And Petra, do you have any thoughts?
I concur. I think let's go for the smaller space.
Okay. So you're going to try to move. So tell me. So you're basically going to go to try to move the ship where? Like you're going to try to.
Well, so you said that there were some places that didn't seem as settled, and there was like one big base that
Yes.
seemed to have the most traffic. We're going to the road less traveled.
Okay.
And seeking places where there might be some civilization, but we can land close.
Okay. As you are sort of flying in, now you have a couple of options here as you're flying in, just sort of looking at scanner information and things like that. The first is, obviously, the place where there is a base. Actually, I was saying base just as the bass dropped again in the music, where you have that. But obviously, the place where you have a base would be big enough to accommodate something like the Tangerel. You might still be able to land the Tangerel directly on the planet, even at a place that is not a base. However, you should be aware that from what you can tell, this is the one place that I mentioned is probably the only place that has stuff for a larger ship. Now, what that means is you can still try to land it. It'll be a little more difficult, but you could still try to land it somewhere else. Or secondly, you could also take one of the shuttlecraft and basically take that down to one of these small areas. Or you could, change plans and land it at the main base. So it's up to you in terms of how you want to do it. But it looks like from a cursory scan, the only thing that will accommodate something the size of the Tangerel easily would probably be the main sort of population center that exists.
So it sounds like we could only go towards that main center.
Well, we do have the shuttles, and I mean, it's kind of what they're for. The only bad news is I don't think the shuttles are going to have a cloaking device.
True.
They're also not going to accommodate all four of us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we need somebody up here to, keep the ship in orbit anyway,
Stealth is not going to last that long.
I'm thinking the shuttle to a rural area or a less populated area might be the way to go. We can just try to pick up some Saurian fast.
I'm going to make a bold suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
Now, hear me out. We decloak the ship and head in as if we're just anybody else.
But if we decloak, they're going to see us decloak, and then we'll be suddenly here.
So we'll take a little trip behind one of these moons. We'll say our approach factor prevented us from actually being visible for a period of time. We'll decloak and sort of come around and begin our approach into this particular ship. And if we do this right, nobody will ever know.
But didn't you just say to me that you never know what these people will do to you, and like just walking in and didn't I just give this suggestion like 5 minutes ago? Are you gaslighting me?
All right, here's an alternative. I'm offering suggestions at this point. Here's an alternative. I might be able to tap into those messages and get us some landing credentials. Get us onto a pad. And then we can decloak there and deal with that situation from there. I'm not saying it's going to work.
But at least it's not suicidal. I like that one.
Did I mention that it may not work?
So, Sleepo's looking around for other people to, chime in.
Patra, what do you think?
I don't know. I think we should just get to a place where there's people and start dealing with them. Let's decloak in an unobtrusive way where they won't see it, and let's go down and start doing some interacting with people, because mainly we're just circling around worrying. Maybe they'll shoot us, maybe they won't. Who knows?
Cause?
Whatever you say.
I agree with
well, actually, I agree with Sleepwell. It might be worth the risk if we find ourselves in a situation where we're gonna have to fight our way out. We don't have any fuel, so if we can get in there with a little bit of a stealthiness, it might work better. So I agree with Sleepwell.
Okay.
I love that Cause. He's like a baritone Kirk,
I feel bad. I feel really bad. I'm totally butchering his character. It's great. It's great and terrible.
So then I turn with consolation towards Petra and say, look, we'll just listen to a few messages. If it doesn't work, we can always circle around and do it. We have enough fuel for that.
Okay. Let's just do something. We're just floating around, and we go one way and we're like, well, we're worried about this. Then we go another way and like, well, we're worried about this. Let's go talk to some people. I'm sure.
All right. So at this point, I gesture to Aramis to say, all yours, and basically gesture so that he can start intercepting messages.
Okay, so
yeah, tell me how you want to do this. What are you trying?
I'm definitely going to tell you how I want to do this. So I'm going to link something in chat or in on the. See if I can get it here. Did that work? That did not work. Hold on just a second.
I like, by the way, that this is happening while you're all listening to like listen to that
like Night at the Roxbury.
Let's interact with people. Baby, don't hurt me. Yeah.
That worked. Why is this work? Okay, so the suggestion is not what I'm actually looking to do. What I'm looking to do is Black Hat, and Black Hat reads as the following: it's a level 2 maldur or talent. You can sorry, hold on just one second. I'm reading the wrong one. Yeah, here we go. That's this one. You are able to quickly analyze electronic data and transmissions within a computer system. You gain advantage on all intelligence checks while using a hacker's toolkit to break data encryption or security within an unfamiliar system. Its power also allows you to hack into and break through rank 2 or lower warding talents, such as a magnetic seal or a program trigger, by making an intelligence check using a hacker's kit against the owner's channeling or forging a save, DC.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the way that I would try to do this is try to make some sort of a computer's check, enable this, or use this talent, and then I guess the way that I read this is that I would make a computer check at advantage after firing off this ability.
I think you're right about that. Yes. And the sort of now the benefit will be that you'll be able to basically hack in on messages. The negative will be that if you fail the check, even when you're doing it at advantage, you will basically have done a bing like sonar bing, like sort of something is there that should not be there necessarily. But you can absolutely try this.
All right, I'm in.
Okay. All right, let's do it. So you do the black cat thing, and let us see what happens with that computer's check. And by the way, is there a particular set of messages or kind of message that you're... I mean, obviously, you're not going to know the message until you hear it. But I mean, are you looking for patterns or like, that sort of thing?
We're looking for stuff looking for exchanges specifically from air traffic or airspace control to individual ships that are coming in for a landing.
Okay, fair enough. All right, let's make it happen. Let's have you do that computer's check to try to do this.
All right, so this is going to be at advantage.
Yes.
So it should automatically roll that, and it's going to be a computer's check. And here we go. How's the 17 hit?
So when you do this, you hear this. You basically are able to hook into said conversation over the booming techno music. You can, which is coming from your place, not theirs. You hear. Ship permission granted to land at base. Please proceed vector 3562. And then a voice comes back, kind of a growly, vector 3562. It might be, it could be a synthetic voice, perhaps, that you were hearing. And several messages like that continue, where there's definitely people talking back and forth to ships about landing and takeoff. You've been in a lot more places with a lot more active control than this, but there definitely, there are definitely ships coming in and out and being controlled to do so. Good night, Hadnix. Thank you again for the raid, man.
So Aramis relays all this information to the rest of them and says that we can do one of two things. We can hijack one of these berths, or I can try to reroute another one of these ships to another berth, and we just take their particular berth, and hopefully we can make it look like we're not originating the message from orbit like they are.
I like that plan. You can make, basically some people land in the wrong place. If we can create a diversion like that, like some other people just sort of like start landing somewhere they're not, that might take everyone's attention, and then we can take that spot that they would have originally had.
Is that what you want to do, Hermes?
Sure.
Okay. What I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to do another computer's check, and I will allow you to do this also at advantage. I think Black Hat, is it concentration or is it usually one time only? Does it say there?
Double checking it right now. It is a concentration spell.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Then you can just continue to do that. So you'll be able to do this at advantage. So are you so you're trying to redirect, as I understand, basically trying to redirect one ship to another spot on the base, and then you're taking that approach vector. Is that accurate?
Yeah, we're taking that approach vector and that berth at the spaceport, basically.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
go ahead.
And was the idea that the other people would be in violation of something, so they might cause a little fracas there?
Well, I mean, so if you send, once the ship that you're sending off goes down the other vector, something bad will probably happen. I mean, not to you. I mean, like that will definitely cause like a what the type of thing happening. Right. Yes, for sure. Now it's not going to like shut down the base, but it definitely would cause problems.
Right on.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, so go ahead and make that roll again. Same thing at advantage.
Why is it not making? Okay, hold on a second. I'm sorry. Give me just 1 second. Apparently that's not working either. Character sheet. And let's roll it. That's not what I want to do. Hello. Oh, wait. Sorry. I'm not managing this correctly as I need to. And, there. Yeah, how's it 11?
So, you managed to connect into possibly the same voice that was just talking to you before. Basically, so you hack into it, and then there's silence, and then base, ship, asking for clearance. I've received clearance on this vector. What is your contact status? It sounds like they're basically asking why you just contacted them again, but they do seem to think that you're the base.
As it turns out, there's a fuel leak there. We're going to need you to change vectors and approach a different berth. It's kind of a big mess and a big ordeal down here. You don't want to be down here right now. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Trust me. Just this other vector.
And it breaks in, and he breaks in and said, "This vector is unfamiliar. Should I abort landing if there's fuel leak?" And you can tell that it does sound almost synthetic, like the translator is trying to struggle to figure out, clearly it's not used to having like improv conversations on this line.
Well, I mean, if you want to maintain orbit, that would be great. Yeah, we'll just have you maintain orbit, and we'll contact you in a couple of cycles as soon as we lock down this fuel leak and get it all cleaned up. Is that gonna work for you?
Okay, make a deception check for me, and I'm going to ask you to do this at +4.
That was a 20.
Hey.
Wow.
So you do that, and so there's silence, and then acknowledged base, remain in orbit. And if it's possible for a synthetic voice to sound annoyed, it sounds a little annoyed, but nonetheless, it then signs off, apparently having approved, which means you now have the vector previously mentioned, I believe, to be able to do your approach if you wish.
Time for good, buddy. See you on the flip side. Over and out.
Suddenly DJ and the bear. Wow.
And there's just silence on the line as you cut it. Like, clearly the translator's like 10-4. It's like trying to assess, like, what reference points, like what. Okay.
And I look over to Sleeple and I'm like, all right, buddy, you got your vector. Get us on the ground.
562, going in for a landing. And so,
All right. The Tangrel continues down on the line. By the way, do you still have the disco music going? I just want to make sure.
Absolutely. And also, Kaz says something. He says, I can't believe that actually worked.
Mm-hmm. All right. As the ship makes its way down towards it, you begin to get more sort of visual sign of what's happening. As you look, you can see that there is indeed a small but relatively bustling base on which your ship is going to be landing. There are a few big mining ships that are sort of departing and leaving, and a bunch of little smaller ships. And as you get close, you see there's a lot of little drones and robots and little creatures that are kind of scurrying around down below, and also a number of people that are kind of walking up, and different creatures that you see sort of walking up to each other. There are also, as you get sort of pulling in, the Tangrel kind of levels off to where the launch pad, basically the landing pad is that you've been sent to. And as you're sort of leveling in to get there, you can see that there are a couple of people around that are holding what look like possibly electro spears, and then have sidearms as well. They seem to be at a lot of the bases, a lot of the landing pads, and there seem to be a couple for your landing pad as well. And actually, are all of you looking at the sort of vid screen as you're descending? I just want to make sure.
Yeah, yeah.
I would like everybody who's looking at the vid screen to make a perception check for me, please.
So if I'm proficient at perception, does that do anything other than just like add something?
No, just means that you get to add your proficiency bonus to it,
Got it.
which you would normally not be able to do.
21 here.
Okay. So, let's see. Wow. So, it looks like Petra's very focused on, that's what an amazing base this is. It seems like.
She's looking at her hammer.
I'm guessing, what a great hammer I have. But definitely Aramis and Sleepwell. Did Kaz make a check also?
So the 20 is Aramis, 24 is Kaz.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, all of you are able to see, but particularly I would say Sleepwell and Kaz. Aramis, you notice that these guys, the sidearms that they're carrying, look to be. I mean, you can't tell directly because you're looking through a smaller vid screen, but they definitely look like more modern weapons. These are not just kind of sidearms that you would expect to see on a sleepy little, moon, just like a little mining colony. They seem a little bit more impressive than that. And Kaz and Sleepwell, I would say that you can see even more than that. These spears, the outfits, the armor that they're wearing, the sidearms that they carry, all of these look to be very, very new and modern. And very much out of character with the level of old tech that you saw in the cannons that I mentioned, and very much out of character with everything else this base seems to reflect. And the base seems to be like mining colony base with some guards, but whatever. These guys, it looks like more than that to you.
Yeah.
And so as the sort of Tangerol settles in, and and then finally touches down, the vid screen crackles to life, and you hear, "Ship, please identify contents. Prepare to be boarded."
Did we decloak?
Oh, I'm sorry. I actually assumed that you had. Were you? Because you would have. I mean, are you just landing on the base just invisibly? I'm sorry. I should have asked that before.
I mean,
That would change. That would. Okay. I can change that around a little bit.
Well, hold on a second. But I think that's a discussion that we would actually have.
Yeah,
coming
sorry.
in.
You should have that discussion then, because there is going to be an issue about how long you can maintain stealth on this pad. So, sorry. I should have asked you.
I thought we were unstealthing somewhere out of sight and then landing. Is that not correct?
We had intercepted the message, and then Aramis pulled off this Hail Mary, and then we didn't go any farther than that. You had suggested that. I mean, I kind of like landing invisibly and then suddenly appearing. But, I mean, obviously they'll feel us landing. Like the people who are on the ground will feel a ship arriving.
I want to say that if let's say one day I am faced with somebody who lands normally and gets out and goes, "Hi, how are you doing?" And the next day I have somebody who suddenly comes out of nowhere. And I'm like, shit, right? And so we don't even get to the "hi, how you doing" part because they're so freaked out.
I am your god.
That's it. Exactly what I'm saying.
All right.
So in case it's not clear, I'm not in the pro let's stay cloaked camp. I think it will terrify people.
I think Kaz and Aramis are going to be in the same boat.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
they're going to want to figure out if there's a way for us to maximize the holding compartments that we saw from the smuggler holding compartments and Wait, so here's a question: would it be standard protocol to be boarded?
Probably. At least it probably would be standard protocol at a base that was a little paranoid. Yeah. But there was always inspections. I mean, especially if you have ones coming in and out of bases with, excuse me, resource trading or, mining interests or things like that. That definitely, you could imagine things being boarded. It's a little paranoid. Like, normally you would do sort of scans of the cargo area and stuff like that from the outside. But, it's not way out of the realm of possibility. What's up, JLC?
So I say like, I can be infected again if you want.
How well can we pull that off, Sleepo?
I'm a doctor. By which I mean, I still have my armor that has all the hazmat stuff all over it and stuff, and all I need is a good suck of coffee, and I can feign illness like the best of them.
All right. Unless Petra or Kaz has a better idea.
Oh.
Kaz doesn't either.
So I go to the galley and start brewing some coffee.
Okay. All right. To prepare for illness. Okay. In the meantime, the rest of you are all sort of arranging yourselves under the assumption that you are going to be going in, right? You're going to be going into sort of like visibly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I also suggest that we hide the Kanasi corpses, and that we sort of make more prominent the mechanical bits that we have lying around in those other crates.
Okay. I think you're able to do that if you wish. That probably will take a little bit of time. By the time you're done with that, you're looking at about probably 4 to 5% fuel that's left over, roughly speaking. So, again, you can, when you decide to decloak, that will cut down a little bit on fuel consumption.
I think as we're kind of coming in, or maybe we do a loop around, so that the traffic control doesn't really actually see us, and decloak and then come in on that vector.
Okay. And again, so when
that
you
should
do
give
that,
Sleep all the time to do what he needs to do.
Yeah, I would say so. When you get close, you see all the things that I have previously described. And when you land, you get this line about, prepare to be boarded, etc. And seems to be waiting for a response, because it's waiting, it's kind of a call and response type of thing.
Tell them I'm infected.
Ground control, inspection team, can you give us a couple of minutes? So we've got to secure a sick individual.
And there's a identify illness, ship. Does this require quarantine? Strict quarantine rules are in effect.
And I take my finger off the button, and I say, sleep well.
It's the roid spasm virus.
What kind of quarantine is that going to require, buddy?
So basically, I am not allowed within any humanoid or hominid contact, and anybody approaching me has to be in a level 4 hazmat suit.
Hey, their ground inspection crew, roid spasm virus, strict quarantine, I believe. We don't level 4. We don't have hazmat suits, so we've tried to isolate him into a hazmat suit of his own.
So there's suddenly silence, and then kind of, ship, are you suggesting that roid spasm virus is endemic upon your ship at the moment?
That's really not clear. We would love some help at figuring that out, but I don't recommend an inspection at this particular point until you are ready to bring, and ready to implement strict quarantine protocols.
And as soon as you say this, you hear this as if something has bumped into the ship, and then these red lights come from apparently the side and are now shining through windows and views, sort of like blinding you, frankly, as to how bright they are. And you can see, as you sort of take a quick look down at the terminal, that the ship is now being scanned, and that there is some heavy-duty sort of probe going on. When you turned off the stealth system, the disorientation that I had mentioned that you felt disappeared. When this goes on, your bodies all feel like they are tingling. Like there's sort of like little static electricity as you're going through. And you hear, maintain position, ship. Boarding will not commence until HAZ suits have arrived. In the meantime, you will remain where you are. Attempts to depart the ship or the base will result in immediate annihilation.
Roger.
Have a nice day. Click.
Boring conversation, anyways. Hey, sleep well. You better figure this out real quick, buddy. They're coming in here with hazmat suits.
Well, it's all right. You know, it's a virus. Nobody understands viruses. All I have to do is display symptoms, and you know, I'll be able to be sick. The question is, we've got to be able to get you off of the ship so that you can start wheeling and dealing. So basically, we have to say that maybe Ashen Forge and Star in a Jar people. They are, you guys are immune. You know, so. You won't be affected by this, but like, you know, hominid types would be more vulnerable.
And Kaz pipes up. What's a jar?
So you know, after that, just sort of say, like, you know, I can fake symptoms. You know, viruses can take months to diagnose. We don't have to worry about that part. We just have to worry about making sure that they don't think you're infected, so you can get off.
Did we do a thorough? I mean, I would expect we did a thorough sort of like search of the ship, but did we find anything specifically other than the smuggler compartments that might help us sort of sneak on and off the ship?
Well, I mean, there are definitely sort of small nooks and crannies that exist on this ship. How thoroughly those nooks and crannies would be searched is unclear. They're not necessarily separated or hidden per se. There are a couple of, you may remember there was one isolation, actually, I'm trying to think of the isolation chambers on the Hyperlance. No, it's on the Hyperlance. I take that back. So there are just a bunch of nooks and crannies. Like, for example, you may remember in the engine room, underneath like the stairs where the sort of false image of the supposedly living creature was, and it turned out it was one of the Kanasi trying to, you know, ambush you. That is an example of a place that's kind of a nook and cranny that is not on the beaten path necessarily, but it's not super concealed. I mean, if someone did a thorough search the way you folks did, they could track you down, leaving aside the smuggler compartments. Oh, and I should mention that at this point, the music cuts off, and it seems like generally the music is stopped at the moment.
The broadcast is stopped, or the music is stopped?
It seems more like the broadcast has been cut off.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, okay. I'm game for ideas.
I have. Yeah, stick to the plan. Make Kaz my nurse, basically, because he's most immune to any kind of human-like viruses. You two have been separate, and the Ashen Forge seem to be immune. We've been traveling a long time together. You haven't been affected, but you don't want to infect the rest of the ship. All you need to do is get enough fuel to get us off. At this point, I take I have my coffee in my hand, ready to snort it at a moment's notice.
At which point you hear a ship. Hazmat team has arrived and is prepared to board the ship. Please unlock and open airlocks. Permit entry.
Ground control. We will meet the hazmat team in the portside airlock. give us 2 minutes to make sure that our patient is safely stowed with our nurse, and we'll bring you on board and direct you to him. So 2 minutes.
And it says, acknowledged. Prepare to receive boarding in that time. Be aware that weaponry is not permitted and will result in immediate annihilation. Have a nice day. Click.
It's a good thing my hands are my weapons. Hey there, Petra. Do you want to escort me and see if we can not piss these guys off too much?
Sure.
Okay. So you head to, and in fact, let's jump you back over to the ship. So you head to down to, where are we? There we go. So go ahead and move your tokens, everybody, or the people that are coming this way, down to here, which is the airlock that they actually know. Is that right? Yes, that it. Let me think about that. No, I actually take that back. It's going to be over here, on the right side of the ship. There's another airlock over here, so you're going to be going to the one that actually has the shuttlecraft in it. All right, and when you arrive, you hear this. And then the door opens, and as you get there, you actually, as the door opens, you see a couple of well-armed people behind you, and they might actually be a couple of Kesh, but standing in front of the Kesh is this impressive-looking creature, which you all recognize as a Madokai. Now, a Madokai, which I don't think we've actually encountered yet. Maybe you might have encountered one of them during the battle at the club back on Peltiveria, maybe. But a Madokai is basically a lizard creature, which is often very impressive looking. And this particular one has shades of blue and gold scales that are standing there, and it's in some kind of powered armor. And as you sort of see it, it's standing in front of the two, and it kind of nods at you. And each one of them, both it and the ones behind them, are not only wearing armor, but also have these thin suits surrounding them, kind of almost like as if they were wearing kind of sort of tightly fitting clothing, which you recognize as being the equivalent of a hazardous materials suit. They all have masks on their face as well. And from the mask, the one in front says, "This is the boarding party. My name is Ibis. We need to come on board the ship."
Are you asking permission, Ibis? Is that what I'm hearing?
I actually was telling you how this was going to go down. No, I wasn't asking permission.
Well then, come aboard, Ibis. Let me take you right this way to, and where did we decide that Sleepwell's going to be? With
I'll be at the helm with the dead guy. I figured that would be a good prop.
Okay.
This is going to get interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, come on, yeah. And Aramis, says, "All right, Petra, let's show these guys where we need to go."
Alrighty.
Okay, so let me place these two.
That guy was gigantic for a second.
Oh, that's fine. These are just the minions. Okay. All right, where's my guy? There we go. All right. I will do not have my Madokai figure at the moment, so we'll stick with this for now. So this is the third one. So these three guys step forward onto the ship. And you can see immediately that these two, and they look very much, these two that you're looking at actually look like the guys that I mentioned with the sidearms and the electro spears and all that, with the exception of the fact that they're wearing, has suits, which these other ones that you saw were not. But again, now that you're up close, you can confirm that this is pretty high-level equipment. And also, Petra, you can tell these guys look like they know their way around a fight. I mean, again, at a mining colony, sometimes all you need is the equivalent of I mean, I don't want to say that it's Paul Blart Mall Cop, but it's a little bit like that. You know, it's not, you don't necessarily need the best possible security. These guys look to be a cut above that standard. They look as if they hold their weapons in ways that suggest they've used them before, and not just to shoot things on a random remote mining planet. And so as you sort of like lead the way, you notice that they fall into line behind you. And actually, I should ask about that. So Aramis is moving, leading them. Petra, where are you in relation to those? Like, are you behind the other? Are you behind all three of them, or like where are you positioning yourself?
I'll be just a little bit behind the three of them.
Okay. So they do that, and then one of them falls back, clearly wanting to fall back behind you. They clearly do not want you behind them.
I will. I will allow the person to walk beside me, but I'm actually going to be kind of obnoxious about not allowing them to get directly behind me if I can possibly avoid it.
Okay. So you have this strange little experience where there's a few feet where you're kind of semi-jockeying for position, where sort of he's kind of trying to fall back and you're like, yeah, not so much. And so you kind of have this uneasy like, you know, as you're moving forward. And you notice that Ibis in front doesn't say anything other than just sort of follows you along. And you lead him, so you're leading him up to here, yes, to the bridge area?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right, so he follows you along with the rest of them. So I'm going to move you out. Whoops. I'm going to move you out for just a second. Okay, so I can pick them up. All right, so they follow you in here, and you can do the same thing if you wish. Aramis, you and Petra can just bring yourselves right there if you like. Okay, now as they enter, you notice that they have these blue masks, basically the masks that I mentioned, and then these eye holes that you can see that are glowing blue. And as you come in, each of these guards touches something on their helmet, and the blue light actually shoots out from the eye sockets, and one of them turns this way and the other turns this way, and is basically scanning, it looks like moving their light over the room. And Ibis says, standard procedure is to determine the presence of any bacterium, of course.
Standard procedure is what bacteria? And I kind of look at him and go, what?
And he says, standard procedure. Obviously have to check to make sure that there's no bacteria that might have entered the areas of the ship that could contaminate anyone who was attempting to leave it.
Okay, so
can I hear him?
I guess you can, yeah, because I would say you're monitoring from the bridge, yeah.
Okay.
Do you guys even know what is it called again, Carlos?
It's called the roid spasm virus.
Do you guys even know what a virus is? I mean, that's very different than bacteria, number one. Number two, it's called the roid spasm virus. Are you guys really the experts that we need to be talking to here?
And there's a pause, and then Ibis says, we'll be able to handle this, sir. The process of doing this is protocol, and it's important to recognize that protocol. Moreover, just because you say someone has a virus does not mean that they do. And we have had other people land on this planet who have claimed at our base, who have claimed that they had viruses when in fact they had something quite different. We want to make sure that that's true, and that the medicine for this virus may not mysteriously be sitting in compartments existing around the bridge. Not, of course, that we're suggesting anything. This is all delivered flatly as if reading from a manual.
Wait a minute. So, let's be clear here. You're suggesting that we would put a ruse on you, sir, and tell you that our friend is not actually sick? This kid is young. He's got his whole life ahead of him. He's going to be a great doctor someday. I'm sorry, sir. I'm not sure
Please
that you're
calm
necessarily
down, sir.
qualified.
Please calm down. And you notice that the faces of the guards here with the blue, you have the very uncomfortable feeling of vroom, as both the blue light beams are now shining over you.
Hey. I'm not the one who's sick here, number one. Number two, get your scanners off me. They make me seasick.
Seasick. Are you reporting, sir, another illness? Is this a previously unreported?
No, your scanners make me feel sick. So please turn them off right now. Thank you very much for, letting me, at least recover myself before I introduce you to my friend who's clearly more sick than I'm going to be. But your scanners, they're making me sick. I really can't, I can't stomach this right now. And I start to make a motion like I'm going to throw up.
And so Ibis kind of looks back. Make a deception check for me, please. Aramis.
Damn it. I knew you were going to say that. Yeah, how the 5 work?
So they look at you, and Ibis looks at you and then turns back and says, "Sir, it does not appear to us that you are in any imminent danger. If you would, of course, prefer to wait in our secure holding facility, we could certainly arrange this. There would be no danger of contamination, nor indeed danger of contact with anyone for at least 2 solar weeks. You're
So I
welcome
knock
to go there if you
on the
prefer."
door. I'm knocking on the door to the helm and say, like, if you want to talk to somebody who knows what they're talking about, come in here. Just make sure that you have your level 4 hazmat suits on.
Okay, and the lights, so immediately they sort of swivel towards the door like the blue beams crisscrossing, and Ibis steps forward and says, "Are you the ill party who is upon this ship?"
Yes, I'm the ill party, and I'm also a trained physician. I'm one of the greatest physicians ever to come off of the Valna. So let me tell you, this disease, the Roid spasm virus, is a serious issue. It resembles other viruses that that basically begin with small incubation periods of 2 to 8, but I am in stage 2 right now, where I am at risk of fluid in the lungs and cascade organ failure. I think if I can just keep hydrated, a la cholera treatment, I can be okay. It's mostly just a matter of making sure that my fluids are kept at good levels right now. But right now, what I just need to do is just like not contaminate anyone who is hominid or humanoid, and just basically remain hydrated. I'm with someone right now who has no risk of contamination, so I'm safe right now. But I just don't want to make sure. I just want to make sure I don't get anyone else sick.
And you hear, "Understood. We would appreciate the opportunity, of course, to see a vid scan of the area. If you could please turn on your bridge cameras."
Do so. I turn on the bridge camera, and I'm in my hazmat armor, the medium armor that has the hazmat all over it.
And they turn to you, Aramis, and they say, and Ibis says, "If you would please engage the bridge view screen so we can see for ourselves." Now, you don't have the faintest idea where the hell the bridge view screen is, Aramis, or indeed where such a thing exists.
Aramis nonchalantly walks up to one of the consoles in the navigation, because this is the navigation room, right?
Correct. That's right.
Well, he walks right up to one of the sort of the consoles that is there, and just flips a switch.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to make a computer's check at disadvantage, please. Now, chat, I do want to remind everyone that there are inspirations available. So you could inspire Aramis to be able to randomly pick the right computer thing if it exists, if you want. So you could, I want to make that clear that you could do this if you so wish. Yeah, poor Nonstop used, I think, Nonstop, did you use this to save this crew a couple of weeks ago? Because I was actually joking about the fact that you folks had stuff going on a few sessions ago, and the Adventures of Middle-earth crowd Dragon Spear inspired him. Hey, there we go. Good job, Dragon Spear.
Two Dragon Spear.
But the
Thank you.
AME crowd was kind of like, what was the Esper Genesis people doing? Like I was like, listen, you got to talk to them about. So everyone is in a rough spot in the campaign. Thank you very Dragon's like, here, take my IT skills. That's true. All right. So go ahead and make that. That just cancels it out. So what that means is that you're just doing it as a regular check now.
Johnny.
So you press the button and there's a moment's silence, and then this green light basically comes on and goes dirge, 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 dirge. And there's a moment and Ibis goes Rurch, rurch. Several more seconds pass of this. I
flip the switch back off.
Guards, and stops. And Ibis says, the view screen does not currently seem to be on, sir. If you could please engage the view screen, that would be appreciated, sir. And again, the beams, turn towards you.
Oh God! Come on, guys! This you're making me sick here. I swear. Oh.
And they
God.
click on their helmets, and the blue beams go off. But they take a step closer, and you notice that their hands are a little bit closer to their sidearms.
All right, I lean in this time, looking for the correct switch, and then flip it.
All right, so let's
Which
have you
ironically happens to be right next to the right one.
I was going to say, actually, I am going to give you a regular check at +1 because you actually have a better chance of hitting it than would be the case otherwise. Oh, see, there you go. All you have to do is look first. All you have to do is look. So you click it on and the view screen. Now, as the view screen goes up, Sleepwell, how are you, how are you looking? Like what do you, as the view screen pops on?
Well, so at this
what's
point,
what's the scene on the bridge?
Yeah, so basically, I have my hazmat suit on, but the visor is lifted, and I'm looking sort of like wet and bedraggled. Having snorted hot coffee for the second time, within a matter of a week, I'm not sure that my nostrils have completely healed from the last time, but I'm obviously looking like, either someone who has a roid spasm virus or someone who has snorted, 12 ounces of very hot coffee.
Okay. So they kind of look at the vid screen and they're like, sir, it appears that you are indeed in some medical distress. Are you certain that you can sustain yourself over this time? It might be better just to bring you out in an isolation unit and see what we could do.
The roid spasm virus isn't well known throughout this neck of the woods, but back in Valna we treat it all the time, and so it's just a matter of hydration. And I could die without hydration, but if I might even need intravenous help, and if I do, believe me, I will come begging for help from you. But for right now, I think it's best if I just stay here where I can be still and calm and just drink a lot of water.
And they Ibis says, understood, sir. We should be able to allow you the ability to remain in that bridge. While you were there recuperating, we will simply inspect the rest of the ship, and you can remain on the bridge as necessary. We'll make sure not to, in any way, violate the space of the bridge while you were there. And they turn around as if to leave.
Oh, whoa! What about us? What about the rest of us?
And Ibis turns back and says, "Sir, are you also suffering from this illness?"
You're not even going to check. I mean, you were scanning me, making me sick. No assessment. We
have not determined any sign of infection as of yet. These scans reveal nothing as of yet. If you are in an incubation period, it is not currently evident. But perhaps you might want to go onto the bridge with your friend while we conduct our inspection.
So I bang on the door and I say, Ashen Forge can't contract roid spasm viruses.
Oh, now you tell me. I've been worried this entire time.
Sleepwell says nothing, but he thinks to himself, I did tell you that.
Okay. So he says, as you can see, sir, there appears to be nothing to worry about. We are going to not take long. We'll just do our quick inspection, and we will certainly get back to you. And the Ibis departs with his guards with their blue beams in tow. As the door opens, you can see that the blue beams go back on, and they're beginning to sort of go around and scan and the like.
So Aramis is going to follow them and talk their ear off.
Okay. As you're doing so, are you trying to stop them or just observe them?
I am just trying to distract them. I'm not trying to stop them. I'm just trying to distract them. Make them pay attention just a little bit less to what they're seeing.
Yes. So they walk around with you as you're, happily chatting away in their ear. They don't say anything to you at all. But you're just kind of like, hey, they make no sort of recollection. Their scanners go everywhere. And as you're in the process of sort of doing all of this, they get back to this portion here, which is the black crates. And when they get to the black crates, the blue scanners, blue scanning lights go over there. I'm going to move them back, and you can follow them as you like, Aramis. The blue scanning lights go on, and there is a moment's pause, and then they touch their helmets, and the voice goes silent, and your guess is that they're now just speaking to each other. They're not making any sort of audible sound, any sound that you can hear out here. And after a moment, this one in front, Ibis, turns back to you and says, Sir, we would like to inquire further, if we may, where you received these particular items. Were these declared on your shipping manifest?
We declared them as salvage goods. We were coming. We were traveling through the one of those rifts coming from Peltiveria, and we came out, and there was a derelict ship, and so we claimed salvage off of it. It was just kind of floating there, just kind of doing nothing. And we checked in. We had a little bit of trouble getting him over to our ship here, but things were good to go. Once we got unloaded on. But yeah, we're just claiming them a salvage at this point because we don't even know actually what we're actually dealing with here.
And so there's a moment's pause, and then the Ibis looks at you and says, just to be clear, sir, these were not available to you when you left. You found these later, you say.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying there. Your name is Ibis, right?
Yes, sir, Ibis.
Yeah, Ibis. This was a salvage operation. We haven't even really had a chance to dig in because we were running low on fuel and we needed to, we were puttering into, wherever we could get to, and so we kind of showed up here, and now we were planning to take a check, but my good buddy back there, developed that virus and wasn't really sure what we were going to do next. So that was our first priority, getting him some medical help, and hopefully, we can get him some medical help, and then we can actually take a look at these items. Is there something wrong?
Make a deception check for me.
Yes.
So he looks at you, takes a step forward, and then says, "Thank you, sir, for your cooperation. This concludes our inspection. You are free to go about your business." And he and the other three march off.
Hey! What's going on? I mean, you make this a big deal. What's going on?
Inspection is over, sir. We will, of course, maintain quarantine for your unfortunate individual who is on the bridge. The rest of you, however, are free to go from the planet. Of course, we ask that you maintain a flight plan and make sure that you file your flight plan when you prepare to depart.
Whoa. So wait a minute. You're telling us we can leave. We just can't come onto the planet.
And as you're saying this, by the way, he's like continuing to walk out. So like he's kind of talking over his shoulder. And I'm sorry, what did you just say? I missed what you just said.
Aramis is following him all the way back up there. I'm like, hey, so you're telling us we can leave, but we actually can't disembark here. And
No, sir, you are free to disembark as you choose. You can move your items about as you wish. Simply, the only thing we ask is that you not move your main character, your one who's lost here, because obviously there is a serious illness to contend with. Also, I would like to welcome the raiders from Holding Action, who are here. We are in the midst of an inspection of a smuggler ship, and welcome to Esper Genesis. This is day 19 of Esper Genesis, Consigned to Oblivion, sponsored by Alligator Alley, and you're watching the amazing team of Johnny Pittman, Kat Rambo, and Carlos Hernandez, usually joined by Zach Clay, but not this evening, as they attempt to convince people that they do not have a ship full of illegal items. Welcome. Thank you for the raid, in all seriousness, D&D, and Fluid of the Druid, Mega Morgan. Thank you for the raid, Holding Action. I appreciate that very much. Welcome, welcome. So, yeah, so that's what he says to you, Aramis.
Aramis pauses as he takes in exactly what Ibis just said, and said, "That's it? There's nothing else?"
And Ibis turns back and says, "No, sir, nothing else, unless, of course, you feel there needs to be."
No, it's good. It's good. Thanks, I guess.
Our pleasure. Have a pleasant day. And they depart. Okay.
And I lock up the ship as soon as they leave.
Okay. Right. Now, I want to be clear, Aramis. You felt like there was a pause. He looked at you and then was like, all right, sounds good, and then bails. So you did not feel like, I got this, no problem. But they left for whatever reason. Status Rain, thank you again for the hype, for the raid, and of course for the hype. This is Esper Genesis, a 5e, D&D 5e rules-based space opera game. This crew, there's far too much to summarize, to describe in detail, but what I will summarize by saying is that they are on a mining colony with some illegal items, in the belief that this mining colony is, or someone in it, wants these illegal items. They're trying to figure out why they're there and presumably get enough fuel that they can get back off the planet. But they're also trying to figure out some of the mystery of why they're there, including one of the characters has someone from her past who might be down here somewhere, and so a lot of mysteries to solve. And they apparently just got through an inspection somehow, and that's what I would say.
So Aramis, as soon as the door closes, he locks the door. He books it to the bridge and says, "That was the weirdest inspection I've ever been a part of, and I haven't been a part of very many inspections on a ship. Period."
What they say? Are they coming back?
They were very serious about everything. They checked every single box, and then they got to our little black boxes in the back. And once they did, they said everything was fine, and they promptly left.
Did they see that they were empty, or did they not even open them?
They did not open them. I claimed that they were salvage, and that's it.
Huh.
After they heard that, they paused for a second, probably had a little bit of an exchange, and then promptly walked off the ship. They almost seemed like they were in a little bit of a hurry. They gave us complete clearance to leave, except for you. But I got a bad feeling about this. I think we need to get the hell off this planet as quickly as possible.
All right. All I have to do is change into a different set of armor that I have lying around, and I can pass just as some other member of our crew here. We'll just, say the dead guy was the guy who, didn't make it through the roid spasm virus. So let's go.
I don't think you understand. I think they're coming back. I think we just need to buy fuel and get the hell off this planet, this planetoid, whatever it is, this moon.
Oh,
think. Okay.
Yeah. Let's go. But let's actually go.
Okay. So you folks are going to depart to do that, I assume, yes?
So I will change into that other set of medium armor that I have, the one that isn't encrusted with hazmat and sick patient,
and which reflects coffee, consumption.
Right.
Okay. Now I just want to make sure all of you are going to get off to head to this, or head into the spaceport proper, such as it is.
Yes, I have one question.
Okay.
Did we, at any point in the 3 days that it took us to get from where we were limping to this particular location, did we identify any type of security systems that we can enable once we left the ship?
Yeah, there seem to be like basic ones, but the security systems, from what you can tell, the main security system on this thing is not to be found in the first place. And if it does get boarded, to have ways of concealing things, through these like smuggler holds that I mentioned. So there is a rudimentary security system that basically is essentially a glorified lock system. You can, of course, set this up so that you could set it up so that the stealth system remains on, but the problem is, as you've already talked about, fuel consumption. But, you could do that and then just until it runs out, I suppose. But other than that, the best thing you can do is to have this kind of rudimentary system, which would basically just lock it when you leave.
Okay. And Aramis engages that and shakes his head as we all make our way out of there, I guess.
Okay. As you exit and prepare to head out, you notice that so you were in what looks like... Now, you've been now on Peltiveria, which is an enormous space station, and you've been on Pel Savros, which is also a... Thank you, DNG. And I am glad... late to the party on this, but raid hype. Thank you so much for the raid holding action. And yes, I hope folks like this. If you like what you see here, there's more of this. This is the officially sponsored campaign of Esper Genesis, by the way. And this crew is great. And as I mentioned, Johnny Pittman, Cat Rambo, and Carlos Hernandez with us today. If you like what you see, please make sure to stick around because we do lots of different campaigns like this. And please also check out these individuals. Johnny over there is a GM who does a lot of stuff like this on Twitch and also some variety streaming as well. And he's going to be doing a campaign on my channel, actually, of a really awesome game that's coming next month called The Clay That Woke. And then Kat and Carlos, as I point in opposite directions, are not only friends but authors, speculative fiction authors like me. Kat is actually the president of SIFWA, the main organization for speculative fiction authors, certainly in North America. And Carlos and both Kat and Carlos are, have books coming out, are Nebula nominees and Hugo nominees in various configurations, and you should check out their work as well. So if you like what you see, stick around and thanks. Cool. So when you prepare to depart, let me see, just make sure that... Okay, good. So, when you depart this spaceport, you've been on Peltiveria, which is, as I say, this large, enormous space station. You've been on Pel Savros, which is smaller, but still, bustling. This is not like that, okay? This comparatively is although, it's got a number of people in it, seems like it's more like, to jump out of the game for a minute, Mos Eisley, okay? So there's a lot of people sort of wandering around that look like sort of seedy types. You see a number of people that have what look like mining equipment, sort of various kind of mining equipment that they've got with them, laser drills and things like that they're carrying along. So you see that as well. You see people that are behind these, almost like in these little kiosks, almost by the side of various passageways that you go down. And there's a lot of open area to the moon beyond. The thing you all notice immediately is that, as I mentioned, the air is breathable, but it is hot and thin. It definitely is thin. You can feel it's not as easy to get your breath out here, and it would have an impact on you if you really tried to exert yourself. Just walking along, you should be okay, but it definitely feels a little like, like you've really got to kind of breathe in to be able to do that. Now, as you're sort of looking around, you're looking for places, I assume, to be able to purchase, try to get energy, sorium, things like this. Like you're specifically looking for that, I would guess.
I mean, getting a general lay of the land, too, seeing what shops there are to see.
Okay. You definitely see some shops that look like they have sort of general parts. You see a couple of places that look like they might be medical facilities or selling medical things. And one of these in particular has an unusual glowing sign above it that has what looks like an interlocked sort of arm of flesh, like human flesh, and then it's interlocked with a robotic arm. They're sort of like in an X across each other. And just looking inside, you can see what looks like a number of things hanging on the walls that look like almost body parts, but maybe metallic body parts. And as you're looking, a creature walks out, and you hear sort of whirring as it walks past you. As if there is some kind of servo in their leg as they're walking past you, as they walk out of the place. There is another place that you pass by that seems to have a lot of ship parts and material for ships. You don't see anything yet that seems obviously like, the mobile gas station of the future, but you see lots of other sort of stores that seem to have various parts. All of them very small for the most part and like run by one person. These are all very tiny sort of little enclaves, basically.
So I use my pause to call for a team huddle. And as I call people, it's like, we have a lot of mechanical parts in there that we can sell. That might get us some thorium. But I'm thinking that droid place over there, they might be interested in a certain Canassi ganglion that I have in my backpack. Maybe I can get some real money for that.
Listen, those ground control guys were really interested in those boxes. You start spreading around that technology, that's going to attract even more attention. I'm a little concerned. Me being cautious should say something.
I'm just like, I'll be in and out. By the time they figure anything out, we'll be gone, right? We're just buying fuel and getting out of here. We need money for fuel. I've got a brain to sell. Which is a line I've always wanted to say, by the way.
I have a brain to sell.
Might as well get rid of it rather than be caught with it.
Look, Aramis, mind is a terrible thing to waste, and...
All right, kid. It's all you.
Salute sardonically and head off
Okay.
to the old android part cyber shop.
Okay, so you were going into where you saw the person walking out, right?
Yeah.
Okay, as you walk into this place, and by the way, you're just going in and out. What are Petra, Aramis, and Kaz doing while you're doing that?
Watching the door. Kaz and I are going to watch the door, I think. Or Petra and I are going to watch the door, and Kaz will go keep an eye on the kid.
Okay.
Keep an eye on the crowds going by, too, and looking to see if anybody seems to be watching us.
Petra, make a perception check for me, please. Do it at +2.
Damn it.
I have a one of my proficiencies is in perception.
Okay. That's what I like to hear.
13.
As you were sort of looking around to see things, you notice that there is one person who is sort of leaning almost too casually, perhaps, against a back wall not far from where this cyber shop is.
Okay.
And they have been sort of, you notice that people are moving around them. But this one is sort of looking in your direction and seems very unconcerned about the fact that you seem to have noticed them. And in fact, when you see this person, who looks to be human, by the way, or possibly Promethean, when you notice them, he who is dressed in kind of sort of like not even really armor. It looks almost more like a leather, sort of like a thick leather tunic, kind of an odd outfit for this planet. He looks at you and kind of gives you sort of a half salute and a wink.
I'm going to let Aramis and Kaz know that this guy is there and watching us.
And as you're thinking about that, I'm going to jump into the store where Sleepwell has entered. Sleepwell, when you come in, there is one customer who is currently apparently arguing. If you had to guess, this might be an Eldori. They have dark blue skin and black hair, and they are currently negotiating, clearly with the help of a sort of like they have accented. They're speaking essentially English, but it's kind of an accented English, and they are speaking to what looks like, again, either a human or Promethean, probably human though, man behind the counter. But the man behind the counter, so if you've ever been in a tattoo parlor, you will know that tattoo artists like to display their talents on themselves, right? There are very few tattoo artists that I know of who do not have lots of tattoos, right? That may come into play here because this guy has a shock of white hair over a sort of bushy white eyebrows and a face with a white goatee. But in that face, the right eye has been replaced by a metallic eye, which is glowing red and which moves independently of the left normal eye. And below that level, from the neck all the way down, numerous parts of the body seem to have been replaced by metallic things. A metal torso, there is a metal arm, there's what looks the metal left arm. The right arm seems to be half flesh, and then the front of it, the sort of the from the elbow down to the hand and wrist, all seems to be metal. The legs themselves seem to be possibly made out of some hybrid of metal and flesh. You would guess that probably this guy is only maybe, I don't know, 30% maybe flesh at this point.
More machine than man.
More machine than man now, twisted and evil, presumably. And as he is sort of standing behind the counter with his arms folded. And the Eldori says, I tell you that to get something like this should not be that difficult. And the man behind him says, I beg to differ. I sell things at the cost they are because I know the value of these items. And what you're asking for is no simple matter at all. His voice is slightly ragged, but it's ragged in the way that if someone had a voice box of ball bearings, that's the kind of raggedness. Zzz, almost sounds a little bit like buzzing, basically. In fact, I don't want to blow out anyone's ears, but test. Yeah, like that. Just imagine that, and I'm not going to keep doing it because it's obnoxious. But so there's almost like this metallic buzzing. And the Eldori says, you understand that you are not the only person on this planet who sells some of these items. That is correct. I am, however, the only one on this planet who will sell you these items and let you walk out the door alive. Though I could be required to change my mind if you persist in being stubborn. We had an agreement. You pay what you owe, or the agreement is breached and the consequences are faced. And the Eldori sort of draws herself up, and you can see her eyes flash. And you know that, Sleepwell, that Eldori, because you've certainly heard of these creatures before, that Eldori actually sometimes carry the ability to wield psychic energies and powerful energies. But as she does so, the guy, and so far the guy's just been standing there, as I mentioned, an arm like this, like two arms standing there. But one of the arms, I mentioned the left arm, which looked all metallic. The right arm had the half flesh, and then the metallic part of his arm. But the left arm was hanging below the level of the desk. As she sort of starts to looks at him and gets frustrated, he brings out from below the desk his arm, and you see that his arm is actually not an arm. It is what looks for all the world like a minigun. And he holds it up, and you hear this drrrr, and the barrel starts to rotate. And he says, this discussion is now over. You will pay, or I will pay for you, I'll take the pieces that I need from what's left of your body. I've dealt with your kind before. I'll deal with them again. Now this thing looks like...
Right.
And the Eldori's like... And then sort of kind of stops and shrinks and stops and steps back and says, "Fine, I'll have the credits transferred to you." And the man immediately lowers the gun and says, "Excellent. I knew we could come to some understanding." And she sort of shakes her head and turns around and walks out, like pushing her way past you. And just as he's about to leave, she turns around and she says, "Be aware, Sanik. I have a long memory." He says, "That's good, for I have a longer gun." And just sort of grins at her. And the red eye kind of glows red as she shakes her head again and then leaves. And then he sees you and he says, "Yes, what may I do for you?"
So, I'm just kind of like looking back, go like, do you get a lot of repeat business?
And he says, "Certainly, when people don't try to cheat me. What you saw there was a typical Idori ethical standard. Live up to nature, talk about the power and connection of the universe, and then sneak out when they think they can get away without paying. She was well compensated, and I deserve compensation for what I provided her. That thing you saw her attempting to do was focused by the metallic item that I have placed inside her body. It is fortunate for her that she'll actually have the chance to use it in the future once she pays me as she should."
Well, you look like the sort of guy who could use a lot of cybernetic equipment. We are just like a little ship who happened upon a lot of salvage out there, and I would just love to give you bargain rates on all of this equipment that we don't have a lot of use for, but I bet you do.
And he says, "I get a number of conversations like this per week, friend. Don't take this the wrong way, but I have heard and seen it all. What is the nature of this equipment?"
Oh, a lot of it's pretty standard. We'd give it to you just at a bargain rate, because what are we going to do with it, flying around with it? But, I don't know. Maybe if we had something really exotic or interesting, you'd be interested.
And he says, "I'm listening."
So at this point, I'm like I said, we just happened upon the ship and grabbed a bunch of stuff, but, I'm a doctor, best in all of Valma.
And he raises his good hand, the non-gun hand, and he says, "Wait, is this stolen merchandise?"
Salvage, pure salvage. We just happened upon a derelict ship.
"Is this stolen salvage?"
So, Sleepo's like, no, we followed the laws of salvage that pretty much every civilized planet follows, right? If it's basically jettisoned and there's no right of claim to it, we did our due diligence and didn't find anything.
He sort of narrows his one good eye, and the red eye kind of glows. It's a little bit painful to look at, actually, because it's kind of like, it's not exactly a laser, but it's one of those, like,
yeah.
And you have an uncomfortable feeling, sort of the reminder of when the ship was being bathed by those red lights before when you first landed. And he sort of leans in and he says, "You know as well as I do that anyone who comes here pays little attention to the laws. So let's cut the dreck, shall we? If you have something to give me, I'll take it off your hands, yes, and I'll do so even if it's illegal. But I want to know exactly what we're speaking of here. How much heat will I have to deal with if I take this? And fear not, you've come to the right place if you want to sell for a good profit. But a profit requires honest treatment. We need to have trust. Without trust, what are we really but a collection of cold, unfeeling parts. Am I right? And he throws his head back. And his laugh is like all off and like not
Right.
even, just like really
Like
weird.
glitching and
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So I say, man to man, you know.
He sort of stares at you like,
Right. Man to man, I like you. So I'm going to show you something I bet you've never seen before. Reach into my pack, and I put Kanasi brain on the counter.
and he sort of looks at it. The red eye sort of glows. Again, you see sort of the inside of the brain jar has got the red light kind of, sort of searching around inside it. And he says, "This looks like a brain, yes, but why is this important? I've seen brains before, sometimes after I've removed them myself."
I'm guessing you haven't removed one like this before. Like I
Not
said,
whole, certainly.
The ship that we found where we salvaged all of these items, well, there was a corpse of something like I'd never seen before. It basically looked like 1,000 knives gathered together into this weapon of war like I've never seen. I'm a doctor, like I said, so I performed a proper autopsy. I think this is a Kanasi brain.
He sort of, so he widens his eyes and he steps back and he says, "Kanasi. Wait." And he looks at you and he says, "Are you on the ship, the Tangrel?"
I don't know the name of the ship. I'm just on a ship, but I'm on a. I
And
just kind of shrugged.
he says, "Word is that some have been waiting for a ship called the Tangrel to deliver special cargo. Word is this cargo has value for military purposes. Now, this isn't commonly known, but it doesn't take a genius to figure that when someone comes in with salvage and starts talking about Kanasi, they didn't come there by themselves. There's nothing more illegal to transport than Kanasi from one place to the other. What
Hey.
that tells me is that you're either lying or very, very stupid."
I'm gonna go with ignorant, because we just found this stuff, and you said you could, move stuff that might be illegal. I'm guessing the Kanasi stuff's pretty illegal, but pretty cool.
He nods and he says, "I might be able to move it, but that merchandise is very, very hot. Hotter than normally I would deal with. There are people on this planet," and he kind of, looks as if he could spit, and do that. People on this planet that have interests in things like the Kanasi. I wonder why they've decided to make their move. Anyway, yes, if you give me the opportunity to get onto your ship and see this merchandise for myself, I will give you a fairly good price for it. Not as good as you could get from some circles. The difference is I won't stab you in the back. Treat me fair and I'll treat you fair. Treat me poorly and I'll treat you the way I did my last unfortunate customer." And he sort of leans over, or sort of looks over, and your eyes follow his vision to see in one sort of spot in the shop, there looks to be another version of like the sign that was hanging outside, except this looks to be a cybernetic arm and an actual arm and an actual arm. Like, not a picture, an actual arm crossed over. And then he looks back at you, and Sleepwell, that like it's either very well preserved or very recent. That has been put this way.
So I say to him, I kind of lean and it's like, well, I'm not sure exactly what you want. Like, I've got a brain for you, but it's not like I have any living Kanasi in there or anything.
Do you have parts?
We got parts.
That's what I was wondering. If you bring those parts out here, you'll get everyone on top of you, plus security, faster than one of us could spit. So I should go on to the ship and see what you have for myself. Accompanied, of course, by my companion.
Who's your companion?
And he sort of looks over to his left. Now, I don't believe I've used this before, but I want to double check. Have I talked about or mentioned or used character from the black hole on this before? Did I do that? Or is that not here? Okay, I didn't think so.
That was not here.
Have you ever seen the Disney movie, The Black Hole?
It rings a bell. I don't remember anything about it.
Okay. The Black Hole Disney movie is, first of all, awesome. Okay? Highly underrated. There is a character, a creature on this called Maximilian. And I'm going to show you what it is.
We're screwed. We're totally screwed. Let's just be clear about this.
Okay. Good. Let me just... Okay, I'm going to download that very quickly. Okay. I'm going to put this up on stream, so you won't see it on Roll20, but you will see it on the stream. And everyone on chat will be able to see at the same time you do. Okay. So he gestures, and emerging from the back with a shower of metal, like basically just falling down around him, this red robotic creature comes forward. And it doesn't come forward so much as it hovers. It hovers and moves forward, and on its arms are these rotating blades that as it lifts go, and so they've got these rotating blades on both arms, and this glowing red sort of like, I don't know how you would describe it, you can see it there, like a one red bar basically in front. And he says, "This is my companion. I call him Fido for fun." And this thing is... Now, this thing is, first of all, like, with the hovering, it hangs about almost 7 feet in the air, basically, Sleepwell, or 7 feet tall, I should say, like, if you sort of imagine the bottom as having legs. This thing looks ridiculous. Like, this thing looks like it would destroy you in 3 seconds. Like, it looks heavily armored and real freaky. And then he says, "All right, Fido, that's enough. Down, boy." And the blades like spiral down, spin down, and the arms lower, and it just stays there with the red just slightly pulsing.
So, I turn and say, like, that thing looks dangerous. What happened to trust? We don't want to just be a, melange of metal, right?
He says, "This is my trust friend."
I'll be right back. I just want to make sure that my companions are okay with your pets.
As you go out to talk to them, Petra and Aramis, you and Kaz, you have been standing out here, and you've been looking at the person who sort of saluted it, kind of nodded at you and so forth. So you've been, what were you doing in the meantime while this stuff was going on simultaneous inside the shop? What were you doing with this character that was winking at you, etc.?
Does this guy want to have a conversation? Is that why he's nodding at us? I mean, no? Okay. So I look over at this guy, and I look for the nearest sort of space cantina. And when I find it, I look back at him, and I kind of point and then thumb my way towards, the direction of the space cantina, and then I take off that direction.
And he, as you're about to do that, he nods and turns and sort of not follows you directly, but kind of smoothly follows when he gets the chance. Petra, are you sticking? What are you and Kaz doing? Like, are you waiting, or are you going to follow, or is one going one way and one the other? I just want to know how much we're splitting the party, basically. Just how far are we? I'm just joking. Just joking.
I'm gonna wait because I don't want Sleepwell to come out and not find us there.
Okay. Kaz is going with Aramis then, or staying with you?
What does Kaz wish to do? What does he say he wants to do?
Right. Yes, Kaz, what do you say?
Aramis, where are you going? I'm gonna go talk to this guy. I think we need to go. We need to figure out what he wants. Why don't the two of you pay attention to the kid while I go figure this out, and we'll keep in contact. Back at the ship or something. I don't know if that's a really good idea. Listen, I got this. Seriously. I got this. We're not going to be here for very long. Petra, you think that's a good idea?
I think that this is not a controllable member of our party, so just let him go if he wants to go.
See, she agrees with me. All right. I'll stay here with Petra. Good. Keep an eye on the kid. I'm gonna go grab a drink to figure out what this guy wants.
Okay.
Don't get yourself killed, Aramis.
So I'm going to address Aramis in a second, but before I do that, Sleepwell, you come out to find Petra and Kaz standing there. No sign of Aramis.
Hey, where's Aramis?
He felt the need to go off. He's getting a drink. What? You look worried, my friend. Why? What's happening here with you?
Oh, I think I have a buyer for all those Kanasi corpses that we have, but I think he's nuts, and he has a really dangerous robot.
This is not really what I wanted to hear.
But it could be good money, or he could try to kill us.
So basically, you're saying you found a crazy person with a killer robot and you want them to go aboard our ship, and they might or might not give us money.
That's about it, yeah. Did I mention the crazy robot?
I'm the Messiah. This doesn't matter. Let's go.
You're the what?
I'll explain later.
It's fine. I'm the Messiah. Okay.
She's like, let's go. All right.
Okay. So you're going in with him?
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. So when you return,
I'll come too.
Okay. Kaz, not the Messiah. All right. So you all enter the store to see, and Petra, you see what I have previously described with Sleepwell, including this guy sort of standing behind with this weird combination of parts, and this indeed impressive-looking, freakily scary, intimidating robot that is behind the sort of counter where this guy stands. Just at the moment, kind of hovering in the air with a gradually red pulsing sort of visor almost that just is kind of at a very low ebb. And he just sort of looks silently.
So, just to break the ice, please let me introduce you to Petra Sinris and Cosmordius, my companions.
And he looks at both and nods and says, "An ashen forged and a Bellare. I should have expected a motley crew. You'll fit in well here. So, you're the you're the lifting crew to bring these things down. I've mentioned to your friend here that I want to be able to inspect the merchandise on site.
All right. Well,
Yes.
go do that then.
I'm happy to do so. I just need to know where your ship is positioned, what launch pad, what landing pad, and then I'll head over there. Of course, any security would need to be removed by the time we arrived.
Yeah, we'll be happy to escort you aboard our own ship,
Yeah.
sir.
Very well. I am happy to be going with you. However, it will probably take me a few minutes to prepare. In the meantime, you might want to remain here. I'm happy to leave Fido to keep you company. And the red robot's visor just sort of pulses.
I mean, prepare? We're just gonna go take a look, right?
You don't understand, my friend. And as he comes out from behind the counter, you can see that he's actually not walking. He is actually on what looks like some kind of hover platform. And you see that basically he is essentially has nothing beyond his knees below. He just has his knees, which are metal, and then nothing, and he's on a hover platform. And you see this minigun that I mentioned before on his arm, and all the rest of it. And when he floats out, he says, I need to take precautions. There are a few who, when I am out in public outside of the comfortable confines of my store, feel it is helpful to take a pot shot at old Senek. I have stayed alive as long as I have by making simple preparations. So it will take me just a minute or two to get ready. Then I'm happy to come with you.
All right. Just let us know when you're ready, sir.
As you are prepared to do this, as you're sort of sitting there waiting, prepared to do this, there is, I'm going to jump back to you folks in just a minute, but you are sort of waiting for this, and I'm going to jump over to Aramis, who goes down to what you said was this sort of local watering hole. And
Sure.
It says, and the name of the watering hole is the Rich Vein, as in Vein. And you come up to this place, which has this sign sort of in blinking neon, very, very Vegas, really. The Rich Vein. And that is presumably, assuming that's the one that you were pointing to, you can duck in there if you wish. Inside, the place is fairly quiet. There's not a lot of people around. But you do notice one thing that is of interest, and that is that standing behind the bar is an Eldori female who was previously pushed out her way out of the shop. You were sort of standing outside when this person pushed out of the shop and walked down the street angrily. And this appears to be the same woman. And she is right now behind the bar, pressing some buttons and, attending. Looks like she's kind of cleaning with some kind of microcloth or something on the counter in front. She seems to be muttering to herself also.
So I walk right up to her and say, hey, what passes for Mutter's Milk around here?
And she says, we don't have anything like that. However, I beg your pardon, wrong accent. I'm put myself back in the cyber guy. No, not that guy. Beg your pardon. She says, we don't have anything like that. At the moment, the only thing you'll be able to find is Meteor Ale, or perhaps our homebrew.
We talking moonshine or just some fermented hops?
And she says, it's moonshine, all right. But it will make you change your mind about what that actually means. It's the best stuff that you will find on this planet, or frankly, any of the moons near it.
Challenge accepted. I will take 2.
And she says, all right, payment will be 30 credits in advance. Now, 30 credits is a fair bit of money for, you know, a drink that you've never tasted. But she just kind of, and she's not really even looking at you. She's still kind of furiously pushing this thing across the counter, this microcloth thing.
And I will slide 30 credits over to her.
And she takes them and sort of looks at them and nods, and then pushes a button below the level of the counter, and then pulls out this what looks like kind of a plastic glass mug, which he pushes, which is tinted blue, and pushes it over to you. And she says, "Enjoy."
And just as I will, as it comes across, I look at her and say, I ordered 2. I was very clear about that. I wanted 2.
And she says, "I know, but the person you ordered the other one for doesn't like that drink." And as you're sort of looking at her...
No, sweetheart. I was buying that for you.
And she smiles and she says, "Ah, you're a charmer. What do you think, Jarva? A charmer, no?" And you, assuming you turn to see who she's referring to, or just look over your shoulder, you can see that it's the same guy that was doing the whole wink and nod sort of thing, who has come in, and he says, "Why, yes, my dear. Obviously, he's going to know what he's doing. He is, of course, friends with Spindra, isn't he?" I'm going to put that on hold for just a moment, and I'm going to jump back over to the shop. As you are waiting, and you see sort of Fido standing back there with the sort of red light and blah, 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 kind of pulsing, you are standing looking at it, and then you hear behind you, Petra, a sardonic, sort of dry ice and yet very familiar voice who says, "I always knew you had it in you to come find me eventually, Petra, but I didn't think it would be in this armpit of the galaxy."
I'm going to turn around and look at Tesora and just go, well, can this day get any better?
And that is where we are going to close the session for this.
Damn it!
That is great. That's great stuff, folks. Great stuff.
That was a good edit, damn it.
Yep, I dig it. Nice work, Ed, on that last one. Good stuff, folks. We got a lot of stuff done today. You guys managed to get up to the place, land on the planet, deal with the stuff. You got multiple things. You got, and you've made some friends. Look at all the friends you've made today. It's great. I cannot wait, by the way, for Zach to look at this VOD, not only to see the number of times that Johnny, just was doing his character, was cracking me up, but just so he can be like, why exactly did we end up where we did? Like, if he just looked at that, like, it's like what Aaron said, like, I go off to a 10-something, I come back and find Maximilian on the screen. Like, he's just like, how did you find Maximilian? What is going on? Like, so it is going to be good times. I will start as per usual. I'll move in the other direction, starting with Zach. Again, Zach, who plays Cosmeritis, does a wonderful job with it, but was not able to be with us today. He will be back next month. He feels very bad that he could not attend because he loves this game, but he will be back with us, and you should check him out on his channel at Zach Clay. You can check him on Twitter. I think it's still at Marimba Monk, unless he's changed his Twitter name yet again, which is possible. Also, you can check him out on the Our Vocalist, my voice team, which will be playing Banner Saga 2 on Tuesday night, so you can check him out there as well, and we look forward to having Zach back with us. Moving on over to Carlos. Carlos, great stuff tonight. Sleep Well, I think, had a chance to get some really good moments of figuring out things. I love the kind of like, wait, you were in a prison planet? Like, your back and forth with Kat was really fun there. So how did you feel about tonight, and where will the fine folks see you next?
Yeah, it was a great night for role playing. All sorts of good interactions with the different characters. You know, the Petra moments were really funny and fun, and the Aramis moments were more intense, and we're seeing a little progress in that relationship now, so that was really exciting too. I mean, I think, you know, the Kaz impressions stole the show every time, though.
Agree.
You know, there's no need to even try to compare with that. So yeah, and mostly I'm just glad to be here. You know, I think it was Aaron who said, "Did you take a wrong turn at Albuquerque?" It's like, yes, I actually literally did. So, you know,
Yep.
Very satisfying. Yeah. So The next place people will see me is going to be Tuesday night in Symphony Space here in New York City, and so this is like a big freaking theater, and it's kind of like my acting debut, I guess. It's sort of like I'm going to be playing a creature known as the Host for the Rick Riordan Presents series, where I'm going to be quizzing and torturing Double Dare style. If you remember that old Nickelodeon show, Double Dare, the other authors in the Rick Riordan Presents series and Rick Riordan himself. So that's what's next for me.
That's pretty cool stuff. Were you prepping any of that, by the way, when you went down to this thing, or were you just? I know it was for other like purposes, but did you have a chance to chat about it? Like,
oh yeah. So basically, we've been in rehearsals and script writing and things like that.
Wow, this is crazy, man.
yeah. So it's gonna be a great time. It's gonna be just like tons of fun, and I mean, I just can't wait to share it with people. Scholastic is gonna be putting it in classrooms all over the country, and so it's just like a really cool thing that I never thought. Like, I've done improv and things like that, but I've never like acted before, and this is like, a pretty big stage to make a debut. So I'm excited.
That's awesome. If you're in the midst of doing that, by the way, and you can just sort of be like, blah, 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 Esper Genesis. Like, if you can just happen to like, clap that in, like, go to Arvid's challenge, like stuff like that,
I will develop a cough between now and then.
Yeah, develop a very specific targeted cough. No, in all seriousness, congrats. I'm looking forward to that, and looking forward to hearing about how that goes, and all that good stuff. That should be a lot of fun. That's awesome. So, and yes, you folks should check out, of course, Carlos's work. And Silent Gabby Break the Universe is March
5th.
March 5th.
I just got my hardcovers in. So
oh, show them off. Let me see.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Beautiful embossed cover. So Disney makes a good book, man. I got to tell you, this book has all the things. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
congratulations. I look forward to seeing and hearing how that all goes. Of course, it got a starred review in Publishers Weekly or Kirkus. Was it?
And Kirkus.
Jesus, and Kirkus.
Yeah, and School Library Journal, and it's actually, I think I'm up to 4 starred reviews at this point. So
nice.
I'm really lucky and feeling very fortunate.
That's great. Next Rick Riordan, right there. Next Rick Riordan coming up here. But no, congratulations, Carlos, and I look forward to having you back here, of course, next month with us as we continue. Yeah. Moving right along the line, Kat, we got to see, I thought, quite a bit here of funny moments back and forth with Petra, but also getting some more explorations, maybe about, mysterious things of the past and so forth. So how did you feel about today, and where will the fine people see you here, there, and on the interwebs?
I thought it was another fabulous session. I'm sorry not to have Zach, but watching Johnny do imitations was pretty good.
Pretty fun.
And I do think we might have to have, I don't know, Carlos, either you or I have to be absent next time. So as far as where I'll be, you can always find me on Twitter. You can find me on Patreon. But the next month or so, I'm actually not doing any traveling for a while because I'm moving apartments.
Yay. Yeah, that's right. Good luck with that. Sounds like it'll be a good destination in the end. So that'll be good. Thank you, Kat. Wonderful stuff as always. And I you know what? And I'm going to just tease out the fact that I spoke to both Kat and Carlos before the stream about something that I can't share with any of you, except that there will be an announcement regarding things down the line, and I may have spoken to them about connections to that thing that I can't speak about yet. That is the mother of all teasers, and you will have a chance to hear more about that when I can announce these things in the future. Very exciting. But thank you, Kat, so much. Always a pleasure. I'm looking forward to having you back next month as well. And last but certainly not least, Johnny, it was great. What's up, Brian? Welcome. Brian, of course, from Alligator Alley Entertainment, who, speaking of secret things, but no, people know that Alligator Alley is putting out my Forbidden Library trilogy of adventures. Oh my God, I have spoken to them now about details. We will have more announcements about those details coming fairly soon. It's going to be awesome. I have seen even some art, and oh my God, I am very excited about the D&D adventure stuff coming up. That's going to be really cool. Anyway, welcome, Brian, and thank you again. Brian, of course, wrote this adventure we're in the middle of, Consigned to Oblivion. So welcome in, Brian. Last but certainly not least, Johnny, again, the just the Zach stuff was worth it. The Bellari, the Kaz stuff was worth the price of admission by itself. It was good stuff. And actually, I feel like Aramis also has begun to... I like how you're kind of settling into his character now, about the sort of things he does. I like the sort of relationship with Sleepwell and the kind of, what do you think, kid, type of stuff. That was interesting. And I'm actually really enjoying... I think Aramis in a saloon town sort of fits, it seems to me, even if it's a space saloon town. How'd you feel about today, and where will the fine people see you next?
I think Sleepwells is probably the whetstone that Aramis has been looking for in respect to sort of sharpening his personality and his disposition. So I think it's working out really well. So thank you, Carlos, for that. I had a good time. Otherwise, I just hope that Zach does not kill me. I mean, he does live close enough that he could get in the car for 2 hours and come down and find me.
You guys are all California, and you're too chill. They'll be like, it's fine. I'm just going to go to the beach. I'm not angry. That's really...
Yeah, I'll take him out for a beer or something.
Right? Yeah.
Oh, that's right. He's too young still. That's right.
That's right. You can't do it legally. Exactly. Why don't you do that and you'll get arrested, and it'll be like, man.
He's your real life Sleepwell.
Mm-hmm. He's a real life Sleepwell.
So yeah, it was great fun, and had a good time, and looking forward to next month. And it was great. And yeah, thank you.
It is good stuff. And also, as I said, remember that Johnny will be back with us for the Clay That Woke coming next month. And speaking of that, assuming it's not too late, can you stick around afterwards on Discord just to chat with me for 5-10, Johnny? Is that okay?
I'm again, but I was about to send you a message about specific times for the weekend.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, just do that. That's cool. All right, sounds good. All right, chat, that is going to do it for us. Thanks so much to the wonderful players. Really enjoyed the session tonight. Thank you to Carlos. Thank you to Kat. Thank you to Johnny. And we will have Zach back next month. And I will see all of you wonderful people at that time. I'll post scheduling info sometime within the next week or so. Thank you, chat. Can we get some love for the players? I'm sorry, I didn't. Sorry.
I was just saying thank you so much for this great session.
You are welcome.
So much work putting this together, and it's seamless and great. So thank you so much.
It's always my pleasure. Having good players makes it a lot easier. So thank you. But good stuff, and I will see all you wonderful people soon. Bye bye. All right. I love the fact that Maximilian is just standing up there, except that he's actually Fido in this particular case. That was great. I really enjoyed that thoroughly. I have been really enjoying, again, all the campaigns in different ways. And this campaign, I've been enjoying because I like seeing these things gradually begin to develop. It's been interesting to be part of an experience where, in some cases, the adventure is coming into focus only a little bit ahead of where you are. And so it's not a matter of something of just like, I'm doing this particular work or whatever, and then like I have an adventure that's been set in stone for a long time that, like running Tomb of Horrors that like everybody knows about and has played. This is different, right? I mean, this is a situation where, things are really coming into focus, and we kind of, this group really is sort of the pioneer group doing this, and that's been a lot of fun. Again, I have enormous respect for what the fine folks at Alligator Alley have done, even more so now after hearing about Kickstarter stuff, but it's been a great pleasure to be able to DM this official campaign for them with EG, and I hope that we've been able to do it justice so far, and that Esper Genesis has been properly communicated. Esper Genesis for life, as they say. But anyway, so thank you to Alligator Alley for their official sponsorship, and thank you to the wonderful players for being great and being wonderful and all that kind of good stuff. As for me, I am going to be done now until tomorrow, and I do want to remind everybody that on Saturday, really later today, I will be at 7 p.m. Joined in my Masters of the Dungeon DM roundtable by two people. First of all, my normal regular partner there, which is Dave, the digital DM, but also with our new regular, Little Red Dot, also known as Chelsea, who will be joining us, and we will spend a couple hours talking about all things relating to the world of D&D and DMing and all that kind of good stuff. And then I'll be playing some Bard's Tale 4 Barrows Deep, which I'm looking forward to. I haven't been able to get back to that for a couple of weeks, so I'll be doing that. And then next Tuesday, we will have the Chat Chosen Game of the Month, which is going to be Wild Arms ACF. And then we will have GOG of my Pen and Pixel show, where I'll be continuing Thronebreaker. Anchor. And then that evening at 9 p.m. Eastern, we will have the return of our vocalists, my amazing voice team, Rob, Russ, and Zach, with the Banner Saga 2, which will be continuing to play. So that will be good times. I am very excited to continue with that. Right now, though, we are going to do a raid, and I think what we will probably do is an automated raid because we're just going to be doing the video and then closing up after that. So what I'd like you to do is just, stick around, and then I'm going to send you off on this raid. When I send you off on this raid, and let me see if I can find, I know who I'm going to raid. When I send you off on this raid, what I would like is, nope, this one, there we go. What I would like is for people to do one of two things. Please do the raid, and then you can feel free to go wherever. But that would be great. Thank you, Cat Pig. If you are not a sub, you are going to do this, which is the Arvanauts have landed, followed by Twitch raid, lowercase Twitch, uppercase raid, or uppercase R, lowercase AID. If you are a sub, you are going to, not that one. What's up, Jasper? You're going to do this one, which is the Arvanauts have landed, followed by Get Hyped, which is ARVANE, all lowercase, uppercase H, lowercase YPE. Please do that when you have seen my audio outro. So once you see the outro video, once the outro video is done, stick around, and then I'm going to send you over to this place that we're going to be rating. Let's do it all at once. It always looks good for them, looks good for us. Everybody's happy, etc., etc., etc. And it'll be worth it. I promise you're going to like this person that we're going to go raid. Otherwise, I will see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern for Dungeon Master stuff with Masters of the Dungeon. Thanks to everyone who made this an awesome stream tonight. If you haven't done so already, please follow the channel. Thank you as well to the raid. We had a couple of raids and hosts today, so thank you so much to all of those who were here. I hope those of you who stuck around like what you saw, and will come back again. Following the channel is always a good thing. Checking out the Discord with !ArvCord. You can hang out with the Arvanauts in between streams. !ArvTube, the YouTube channel where you can check out past broadcasts of the stream. !Arv Shop, as Dragonspear was kind enough to post just there, as my merchandise area. Right now, it's just Infinity and Beyond, which is my main, longest running D&D campaign, but soon there's going to be Adventures of Middle-earth and Esper Genesis stuff there as well. Then we have !Arv Tweets, which is my Twitter, where you can go over there and follow us over there. And then, of course, !Arv Treon, sitting at 377.96. Cool stuff that you can get for you and for the channel. Please consider supporting that, because that really is the financial backbone of the channel, and it definitely does make a difference, allows me to pay for different things and keep the channel going, so please support if you can. And last but certainly not least, that sub system. We had a few people jump on board with gift subs, resubs today, so thank you for everybody who resubbed and gift subbed and all that kind of good stuff. That too allows you to get a couple of emotes, like that Get Hyped emote and other things, so thank you to all those who have been a part of this. Last thing I want to remind everybody of is next Thursday, so basically next week, less than a week away, next Thursday night will be the premiere of Emberwind on this channel, with John Helfers running the game for 4 players. Very excited about that group. That does not involve me in any way, except that it's on my channel, which is the way I want it, because I want to be able to expand channel content without me having to do any of it. So that's going to be great, and I'm looking forward to it, and good times and all that good stuff. That'll be happening on Thursday. Thanks to everyone who made this awesome tonight. Thank you to my wonderful mods, Dragonspear and Shadow Mage. Thank you to my wonderful subs, Dragonspear, Shadow Mage, Brandhauser. I think, Brandhauser, you might have actually resubbed, so thank you for doing that. I may not have noticed that because I don't think the alert went off or whatever, but thank you, Brandhauser. Dragonspear, Shadow Mage, Brandhauser, Jasper Kazai, Kooky Canuck, Nonstop, and Rock God. Thank you all so much for the support, for the subbing, and of course those who support the Patreon as well. Really appreciate it. Thank you to my viewers, Apricot Droopfruit, Cat Pig. Thank you to Cat Rambo for her wonderful play tonight. Thank you to Commander Root. Thank you to Dire, Lord, and Khan. Thank you to Durable, Electrical Longboard, Freest, Gigafrost, Harlequin, Holding Action. Again, thank you so much for the raid and host tonight, Holding Action. Thank you to Host Giveaway, to Amberzine. Good to see Amberzine. Thank you to Jagtress, to JD Durst. Thank you to JLC, Mubot for some reason. Thank you to Mr. Mano. Thank you to Mrs. Dunsel, Nedev. Thank you to Polizei, PKD Fan. Thank you to SJVX. Thank you to Slow Cool, Specchio. Thank you to Status Beauty. I don't think I've seen you or Tiedemann Nor in here before. I hope you like what you saw and heard, and will follow and support with Patreon or subbing if you can. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to TNS Mephiston, you Christensen, V&K, Video Store Cowboy. Great work tonight. Thank you to Virgo Praz. Thank you to Write Teach Play. Great job from Carlos tonight as well. Thank you all so much to my players, to Alligator Alley for sponsoring us, and most of all, of course, to all of you. As I said, stick around. Raid is on the way, and I will see all of you wonderful people tomorrow for, later on Saturday, I should say, at 7 p.m. for Masters of the Dungeon. Until then, everyone be good to each other. Have a good night.
When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I grew older, I set aside childish ways. Corinthians 13:11. In the distant future, mankind has spread into the stars and found it is not alone. Within the cluster of planets known as the Silrain Heart, many races strive for survival or supremacy. But throughout this array of planets, societies, and cultures, each has one thing in common: the crucibles. Scattered throughout the galaxy, each moon-sized structure contains a core of raw sorin, a form of mysterious energy used to power ships, cities, and sometimes the warping of the fabric of reality itself. Beings who can do this have been given a name: Espers. The power of God has been granted to God's children. It is a time of terror. It is a time of wonder. It is the time of Esper Genesis.